Good evening. It's 6:30. The City of Bastrop reserves the right to reconvene, recess, or realign the regular session or called executive session or order of business anytime prior to adjournment. I'm calling this session of the Bastrop City Council to order. We're very pleased this evening to have two outstanding young people to lead us in the pledge. We have Haley Gallegos and Gianni Moore. If y'all will come forward, and if everybody would please stand. And these young folks are going to lead us in the pledges. Here you go. Turn around this way. There you go. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Turn around. Come here. Right here. There you go.
There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honoring the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let's give these young folks a round of applause. Y'all come stand up. He's going to take pictures. He's going to take pictures. Outstanding. If you'll remain standing, we want to ask one of our police chaplains, Lauren Hansel, to come up and lead us in prayer.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's had a great day. Good evening, council. Good evening, city manager. Good evening, mayor. Father God, we open this council meeting tonight by thanking you ahead of time for bringing forth the depth, the width, the breadth, and height of your love, to make way for a mind and heart of peace, to enable wise choices for the proclamations, ordinances, and issues brought to this council meeting tonight. We are grateful, no matter in peace or conflict, that you never leave or forsake us when we seek and obey you. Father God, grant the city manager and councilmen and women and men wisdom and revelation from above for the city of Bastrop to be safe, economically secure, bringing justice for the poor and needy, and peace for the citizens of Bastrop. May the city manager and the city councilmen and women have listening ears to all that is being said tonight and understanding for the solutions needed. Let all the citizens of Bastrop feel heard and seen by the council and find resolution. May all be appreciated for who they are and what they bring forth to this council meeting. I pray that all involved here today would agree with one another at the heart level in what is decided, and that there would be no divisions among them, but they would be perfectly united in mind and thought in all decisions that need to be made today for Bastrop. We pray for everyone involved to have compassion for one another and be in good health and peace in our Bastrop community. We pray as one tonight for the welfare of this city and welfare for each other. And I bless everybody here tonight in this meeting in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Y'all may be seated. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, to presentations, a mayoral report. On the 15th, we had our Juneteenth parade and celebration. Many thanks to the co-chairs Sheila Lowe and Ishmael Harris and the Juneteenth Committee for an outstanding, well-organized celebration commemorating the 159th anniversary of this historical event. Also on the 15th, we had the Blue Flames Cruiser held their car and motorcycle show over at the Convention Center. Congratulations to all involved. The directors were gracious enough to acknowledge the city as a supporter and give us a nice little plaque. And then on the 19th, I mean, it's been a historical month for us. On the 19th, this past Wednesday, the unveiling of the Harriet Tubman statue was held. Thanks and congratulations to Doc Jackson and the Kerr Community Center Board for their efforts in acknowledging this important part of our collective history. If you get a chance, go right across the street over here to the Kerr Center, and you can see this statue that was poured by a local vendor here, and we really appreciate their efforts in this also. That's all I have to report on this. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, do you have anything to report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Fossler.
Hi, welcome everyone. I just got out of the Bastrop County Food Access Community Needs Assessment kickoff over across the street at Ascension Catholic Church. It was led by the Bastrop County Care, specifically the Nourish Coalition and the Central Texas Food Bank. Y'all, Central Texas Food Bank serves 21 counties, of which we are one. They are a food bank, and then we have 14 pantries and distributors here in Bastrop County. And not only are they working on downstream charitable solutions like distributing food, we know about that one, they're also working on upstream food system solutions like food access, research, economic stability, and food as medicine. So I think in about a month, they're going to be launching a neighbor survey, and so it would be really helpful if everyone could fill that out. I'll distribute it. But they have a very big goal of forming a regional food system council, of which Bastrop will be a part, and Bastrop is already ahead of the game. Bastrop already has a food action plan, thanks to the Nourish Coalition's attention on this. And yeah, so I'll publish that survey as soon as it's available next month, but that would be helpful if y'all could fill that out. Before our next meeting, we'll have the first weekend, First Fridays. If y'all haven't ever been downtown for First Fridays and First Saturdays in downtown Bastrop, it's super fun. The theme for this July 5th and 6th is going to be handmade in the USA and handmade in Bastrop. So come out Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. There'll also be a flash mob, just a little plug. There'll be a flash mob as well. And then this weekend, I'm sure someone will talk about it, but it's going to be the Pet and Pal Parade on Saturday morning, and then the Big Bang fireworks that night. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Plunkett.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you. Yes, the Harriet Tubman statue, if you have not seen that at the Kerr Center, which is just down off MLK right behind City Hall, please go by and see it. It'll be here through the end of August, and it is just awesome. It's something else, so please go see that. The mayor did recognize Doc Jackson for bringing that. I'd also like to thank Clint Howard and Jamie Howard with Pyrology, who actually constructed the bronze monument here in Bastrop. And this is the only location in the state of Texas, in Bastrop. So we're number one, but we know that anyway, don't we? Also, with the help of the African American Museum and Cultural Center, I want to thank you too for the reception the other day at the Art Lost on Pine Center. One thing I want to do right now is take the focus off us here and put the focus on the employees of this city, because without them, nothing would happen. So they are the true heroes. They are the ones that shine. Two in particular I want to name, because I got a phone call that was amazing, and it was congratulating and just so happy with the service of two employees that are standing out. Alicia, which I told our city manager, did an outstanding job, and Miss Ann, I'm going to embarrass you right now, but Miss Ann Franklin, our city secretary, was also pointed out for making this person feel very, very welcome and appreciated with dealing with the city. So thank you for representing the city so well, Miss Ann and Alicia. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Bastrop. Since we met last, I attended the entrepreneurial workshop that was hosted by BEDC and a member of Bastrop County Cares, who does a lot in our community. It was a good start to a 4-part workshop series for people interested in becoming an entrepreneur. I believe the next one was Tuesday, but I think it was rescheduled. But there are 3 more in that series if you're interested in attending those workshops. Pay attention to our city page for that information. I attended the Bar Association's annual play to raise money for the Bobby Jenkins Scholarship, thanks to my friend Danny Moss, who invited me to that at the PAC Center. That was a nice night out in a very friendly environment. Lots of people there showed up. The actors did really, really good. And if you've never been to those plays, they take a story that actually happened in the county, usually involving a trial, and the audience is the jury, and you get to determine whether or not that person was guilty or innocent, and then they tell the actual story of what happened. I love true crime. I am a true Dateline, can watch it all day long. I've probably seen every episode, so I enjoy those plays, and it's a lot. I enjoy more so the play because it talks about the actual history of Bastrop County. So they happen annually. I, of course, attended the Juneteenth celebrations. I do want to congratulate the Juneteenth committee on a fun-filled weekend. The park, as hot as it was packed. The street dance was more packed than I've seen it in the last few years. I think between Bastrop, Elgin, and all surrounding cities really did a great job in hosting their Juneteenth events. Prayers go out to the city of Round Rock, who unfortunately there was a shooting during their festival and 2 lives were lost. Very prominent people in the Austin community, so prayers out to them. But just a wonderful celebration. I also attended the African American Cultural Center. They did a quilt project where, if you're familiar with the Freedom Colonies, that's where blacks could go and be safe after the Civil War. And so we created a quilt of people that have generations, that were born out of generations of people that lived in the Freedom Colonies, and I am one of those people. And so we unveiled the quilt, and we had a ceremony for that during Juneteenth as well, to talk about our particular pocket. They're not called squares, they're called pockets. So just the history that's involved that we don't even know that we have. Hearing stories there was a wonderful thing to attend. And then, of course, the unveiling of the Harriet Tubman dedication. Everyone involved did a wonderful job at Lost Pines. The weather didn't permit us to host it at the statue, but I think it was even better at Lost Pines. I'm told there were upwards of 200 people there. The displays were wonderful. The dancing, the music, the singing, the speeches, everything was just wonderful. It was a really, really, really good Juneteenth weekend in Bastrop, and I'm so proud of what everyone pulled together to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We will move on to item 4C, our city manager's report. Madam City Manager.
Mayor, we've been a little busy, obviously. Let me go back to my PowerPoint here.
Is your mic on?
Yes, it is now. So we're going to start off with a presentation. I have Dr. Lee in the audience, who City of Bastrop was awarded the 2024 BISD Community Partner of the Year. Specifically for our assistance in helping ease their bond issues and bond construction projects and making sure that schools are safe and open on time for an ultimate impact to all of our ratepayers. So Dr. Lee is here, and she will present the award to the council.
Welcome.
Spoiled my surprise.
sorry.
We'll pretend we didn't hear it.
That's right. Let's just start over. I am Christy Lee. I'm the Deputy Superintendent and proud to be so of the Bastrop Independent School District. And first of all, I want to thank you, Mayor, and all council members for your service. It is difficult to get elected, to stay elected, and to maintain your investment in public service. And I sincerely appreciate all that you do for the citizens in this community. It means a great deal. So thank you. Earlier today, I got to spend the last couple of hours of my workday in a team building exercise with my fellow leaders at the school district and all of our campus principals, throwing axes. We were not throwing them at each other. I just want to be clear. I also want to report that all school and district leaders survived. There were no injuries, and we are safe. But it did highlight the importance of working together as a team. And that's where this award comes from. It has been an amazing experience of late to work with the city staff here in Bastrop. not only our city manager, Sylvia Carrillo, but also our assistant city manager, Andreas, and Doc Cowie and Viviana, and staff really all throughout. And I have a long, several years experience with Anne Franklin, so it was well-deserved praise for her as well. But we did select the city of Bastrop as our community partner of the year, not only for helping us through the, we're educators. We're not developers. And before the 21 bond, we hadn't passed one in 14 years. So we haven't done this in a while. And it was very helpful after Sylvia came in to have the experience working with city staff, their guidance, their helpful information, their support was invaluable. But not only that, I want to say that just the general feeling and sense of partnership, that we had a seat at the table and that the city of Bastrop wanted a seat at our table, has been very, very meaningful. And so to all the city staff, I say thank you. I appreciate, Cynthia, you recognizing staff behind the scenes who don't get to sit up on the dais and receive the public recognition. But Mayor, I'm honored to present the city of Bastrop with Bastrop ISD's Community Partner of the Year Award. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get a picture off the dais with the council and the award?
Sure. I think that's an excellent idea.
Yes, they'll all come in. That's the one we'll frame. That's the one we'll frame. Thank you. Moving right along, we do have another Sit with Sylvia morning edition that will happen tomorrow here in Council Chambers starting at 7:30. We normally provide coffee and donuts, but since I think we're all on a health plan after we saw our health rate increase, we may not provide donuts, we may provide fruit. So you're still welcome to join at 7:30. The coffee is great. And the topics are even better. We are approaching our 4th of July event, and this is going to be our second annual Fire and Police Water Battle. So this happens on Friday from 6:30 to 8 at Fisherman's Park. Come and watch. Fire and PD take each other on. I'm told fire's got bigger guns, but I'm not quite sure about that these days. So, money where your mouth is all I'm going to say. We are, as mentioned, the Bastrop Big Bang will be happening on Saturday, June 29th. This year, 4th of July falls in the middle of the week, so it makes it difficult for families to be able to celebrate over a weekend and giving our employees a much-needed day off. The Pet and Pal Parade does kick off at 10 o'clock. We do have activities in the park, and then the fireworks launch at dusk. More information can be found on that website. Many of you have spoken about the Journey to Freedom. There is a picture of the Harriet Tubman statue that's here visiting us for a little while. And again, many thanks to Pyrology who actually poured that in, and Doc Jackson who actually made that possible. And on the right of the screen is a snippet of what occurred at the Lost Pines Art Center. And it was just one of the best Juneteenth celebrations that I have ever attended. The music, the dance, the celebration was wonderful. We head into budget review. Council has received their first draft budget. Once council reviews it, we will put it out for citizen participation via Balancing Act, where the residents can move the slider and talk about where they want to see pluses and adds to the budget. And then Economic Development, Councilmember Lee mentioned the four-part series. It is a partnership between Crystal Grimes of the HEAL Alliance and BEDC and the City of Bastrop. This last series was talking about even before you get ready to draft a business plan, let's talk about personal credit, business credit. This next one, we will focus on business plans. We then focus on actual financing, inviting the banks at the table. And then the fourth part of the series is, okay, you've got the plan, you've got the loan, now what, right? Helping people come into your door and helping with the marketing perspective of it. We've got 3 businesses. It feels like the United Nations a little bit in the industrial park. L&S Electric is our newest company who's already into their second part expansion. They are a Korean company providing parts to Samsung and others. Technical Adhesives, if you've not been out there, is the building that is going vertical now. They expect to have a certificate of occupancy by the end of summer. They are a glue manufacturer for all sorts of specialty products. And then we have Accutronic, which is the most recently signed agreement with a partnership with BISD that is in the aerospace, specifically drone operations for the U.S. government and other top secret stuff. So lots going on in our area, and we continue to groove along. That's my report.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have lots of things going on. Thank you. Appreciate everybody's efforts.
Mayor, I have one quick question.
Yes.
Is the waste management survey still online?
The Waste Management Survey is still online. Thank you for bringing that up. We did close the RFPs. We selected the top 2 firms that we had interviews with this weekend. We have a technical problem with one of the firms. Everybody was under a strict no lobby, and we may have issues with that. So in either event, I've taken the council's direction seriously, and we are looking at better, if not improved service with little to no increase for the residents. So we will be bringing that out July the 9th. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Great question. We will move on to item number 5A, review rules of procedure to the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, and any proposed amendments to be brought back.
Mayor and Council, we have one item, the presentation for the National Parks and Recreation
I
Month.
apologize. 4D, proclamation of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, recognizing the month of July as National Parks and Recreation Month.
Here comes Ms. Terry Moore.
Ms. Moore, our Director of Parks and Recreation. No running in City Council.
I brought my running, no. This is a proclamation. First of all, I want to say that July is Park and Recreation Month. We'll have a couple of activities and stuff that are special for the month. July the 19th is Park and Rec Professionals Day, so we'll be doing some special recognition for our Park and Rec professionals. One thing I want to bring to your attention is we are launching the Junior Park Ranger program. And I'm so psyched about that. They're going to get a button when they do it. There's a book. It talks about birds and health and trees and just how to save water and recycle. It's just it's very exciting. So that's very cool. More importantly, I want to point out the fact that we have an awesome group of people that work for the city in our Parks and Recreation program. We have 8 park staff that keep our parks mowed and upkept and clean, and got a lot going on. We have 1 rec staff member that stays in the rec center and keeps everything on, and then 4 part-time people, and then we have 13 instructors that, quite honestly, none of this works without any of those. So I really would like to say thank you to them publicly for an awesome park and rec program. So if y'all don't mind, say thank you. That's my presentation.
Ms. Moore, can you tell us what the age range is for the junior rangers?
So anybody can do it. So yes, sir, you can participate.
That's where I was going.
We kind of gauged the booklet for ages 5 to 12, but anybody can participate.
Thank you. Now for the proclamation. Madam City Secretary.
The proclamation reads, whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including City of Bastrop, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas July 19th has been designated as Park and Recreation Professionals Day to celebrate all the dedicated professionals who keep our parks clean, safe, welcoming, inclusive, and ready to use. Whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas City of Bastrop recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore, I, Sylvia Correa Trevino, City Manager, do hereby recognize July 2024 as National Parks and Recreation Month. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Bastrop, Texas, to be affixed the 25th day of June 2024.
I want to point out Cammie Riddell, she's our rec coordinator, and David Harwell is one of our instructors at the rec center. So I wanted to point them out. They were here.
Thank you for that. Y'all will pose for pictures? This is recognizing y'all. Outstanding staff. We appreciate y'all's efforts. We're going to change the agenda around a little bit. We're going to move to item 5B, presentation regarding a petition to create the Bastrop County Emergency Services District Number 3. Madam City Manager.
Mayor and Council, thank you. We received a petition for the creation of an emergency services district that would assist in providing ambulance service throughout the county. We have the group who requested the petition here going to do a presentation to inform the council and a Q&A session with the council. As you know, this item requires council approval to move forward toward a ballot initiative. So, hi, Preston. Preston McGrew will lead the presentation.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We've had the opportunity to meet with several of you over the last several weeks regarding this initiative, and we appreciate the time that you've taken to meet with us. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about ESD3, what it means for our county, what it means for the city, and ultimately what it means for the residents of our county. So this would create a countywide ambulance service that would service all of Bastrop County, including all of the municipalities that are included in Bastrop County. We are bringing this forward to the council, asking for your permission to put it on the ballot for November. This will ultimately go in front of the voters, and they will have the opportunity to vote on this initiative. It is voted in one election but there is actually two different canvases that will happen. So you'll have a countywide canvass. If it passes the countywide canvass, then they'll go to each of the city municipalities that have opted into this measure, and they will individually have the opportunity to opt in or opt out based on their particular votes for the CSD. We are bringing this forward from a great need. I'm the vice president of one of our first responder organizations here in the county. We see a great need for more ambulances here in the county. We frequently go to level 0, which is no ambulances in the county. What that means is they're going to send an ambulance, but it may be coming from San Marcos or Austin or Round Rock. I've had them come as far as Gerald. We see a need in the community for faster response times, for better quality care for our residents. Because of those ambulances coming from extended response times, it puts stress on the fire departments, it puts stress on the volunteers that are in the first responder organizations to help supplement those calls. If we could go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So this will benefit the county by having local leadership for this department. We'll have the opportunity to customize protocols specific to our area and to the rural departments that we work in. We'll have better equipment that will assist in less workplace injuries, having better care for our residents. It'll also give us local control and accountability over an EMS service. In an assistant chief, a chief that will be appointed. We'll have an ESD board that is local residents here, and they'll ultimately be accountable to our commission staff. Our proposal would move to 11 ambulances. We currently have 4 ambulances here in the county. Those are contracted ambulances from Acadian. We would be stationing 2 here in the city of Bastrop, which there is currently 1 ambulance stationed here in the city of Bastrop. We would be building 9 stations, bringing over 75 jobs here to the county. Those are very good paying jobs with great retirements and benefits for our staff. We would have drastically reduced response times. Our plan is built on being able to respond to anywhere in the county within 15 minutes. There are portions of the county now, based on our current coverage maps, that can take 30 to 40 minutes to respond to the outer reaches of our county. We're also looking at reducing the fatigue on our crews. Having 4 ambulances in the county, they're running nonstop. They're getting very little sleep. They're working in conditions that are not ideal for providing the best care to our residents. So part of this plan and initiative is to make sure that they have comfort, that they have a place to go back and decompress after difficult calls, and that they have the ability to rest and be well rested when they show up to an emergency. If we could go ahead to the next page, perfect. This is our proposed station map. You'll see in the blue dots the existing Acadian stations for the 4 ambulances that are stationed in the county. Now, I do want to put a caveat. There is a 5th ambulance that is sometimes in the county. It is a demand ambulance of sorts, but it's not a contracted ambulance that is always in the county. So those are the 4 contracted ambulances that we have in the county. Our proposed stations are in the yellow dots. Those would provide us the coverage to be able to hit 15 minutes to any portion of the county. We would double up ambulances in the city of Elgin. We would double up ambulances in the city of Bastrop. So you'd actually have 2 ambulances in those stations, because that's where most of our call volume comes from, is those 2 city centers. This would also allow the Bastrop ambulance to not be pulled into outer lying areas to cover those calls, and keep the ambulances here in the city of Bastrop more often. A few other things that we want to make sure that the council is aware of. There is a deadline for this particular initiative. It was turned into the county, and we have until August 7th to have the cities opt in or opt out of this initiative. If there's no action taken by the city after August 7th, it is assumed that the city automatically opts out of this initiative. So we want to make sure that you're aware of that timeline. The city of Smithville and the city of Mustang Ridge have already opted into this proposal, and we're in similar talks with the city of Elgin as well. This would be a county-run service. This would be standing up our own ambulances, our own stations, hiring our local staff here, and we expect it to create over 75 jobs here in the county. The implementation time for this ESD, were it to be voted on, we're intending it to be on the November ballot. And the ESD would become live January 1st of 2025, and we expect a 12 to 18 month implementation time from the time that the vote happens. The last piece of this that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of is that there will be local accountability. If the council has a challenge or the city manager has a challenge with the services that are being provided, they can go sit down with the chief or the assistant chief of this department. They can take their concerns to the ESD board, which is subject to the Open Meetings Act, just as the council is. So all citizens will have the opportunity to express their gratitude or grievances with the council. And they'll also have the ability to escalate that to the Commissioners Court, who ultimately appoints the members of that ESD board. That's the conclusion of my presentation. I'd be open to questions from the council.
Thank you, Mr. McGrew. Any questions? Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for meeting with me last week. I don't know who this question is for, but if it's a countywide, if it's a countywide initiative and it's going to be on the ballot, if a city doesn't opt in and it's a countywide initiative, would they still get services?
So that would be up to the city to obtain the services that the current Acadian contract is providing. So what that would mean is the city would then have to contract with a private ambulance service, contract with the new ESD, or stand up their own ambulances in place of these ESD services.
I guess my question is, if it's a countywide initiative, it's going to be on the county ballot. It wouldn't show up on the ballot for their city.
So it will show up on the city ballot if the city opts into this ESD.
That's what I mean. If they don't opt in, it won't be on their ballot.
It will not show up at all.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted you to touch on, which you and I talked about when I met with you guys, was the additional non-emergency services that you would provide for the community. We talked about mental health, and we talked about repeat callers, how you guys would be able. I saw recently that Pflugerville dispatched their ESD to help out with the hurricane, and that triggered my response to you, or my question to you, to let the community know what other non-emergency services you would provide.
Absolutely. Part of our proposal, which is a phase 2 initiative, is a community paramedicine program. For those of you that are not familiar with community paramedicine allows us to go proactively into the community and try to reduce the amount that emergency services are needed. That can be in the form of health fairs, that can be in the form of visiting frequent flyers to find out why they're calling 911 on a regular basis. We have addresses that call us 2, 3, 4 times a week, to go into their homes, to spend time with them, to find out why it is that they're calling emergency services that often. Are they missing a connection to a medication? Do they need a referral to somewhere? Do they need to meet with Bastrop County Cares or one of the organizations in the county that can help connect them with the proper care? It allows us to go into known diabetics that have many problems, to do A1C screenings, to do blood pressure checks. It gives us an ability to actually take the medicine to them. And that's part of our budget and our proposal for this ESD, is to stand up a community paramedicine program. And we've actually designated our lieutenant that will be hired as part of each shift to be our community paramedicine liaison and actually do those home visits in people's homes. Thank you.
Quick question. If it's a county-wide initiative and city residents also pay county taxes, does that mean if the city decides not to opt in, then they would be carved out of the ESD district?
That is correct. So if the city opted out of the measure, they would not have the ESD tax that we're proposing to pay for this initiative, but they would also not receive services from that ESD. So it is a trade-off, and then the city would be responsible for finding those services for their residents through a contract or through standing up their own ambulance service.
Thank you for the clarity. Any other questions?
I have a comment down here. While we're on that point, I just want to clarify for the citizens and for the council that in the case or instance that the city does not consent to the approval of the ESD, the citizens do have an opportunity to petition the city council under certain requirements for majority of qualified voters and majority of landowners to then be included in the ESD. So there is another route that we could take if the council does not consent to that.
Certainly. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Foster.
Speaking of the tax, great lead-in. Would you please explain to the folks listening how it's funded?
Absolutely. So this is through an ad valorem tax or a property tax. The proposal is for 10 cents for every $100 valuation. What that equates to is if you have a $150,000 home, your tax is going to be $150. If you have a $200,000 home, it'll be a $200 tax. That is an annual tax based on your home's valuation. And ultimately, that is the revenue source that will pay for the increased ambulance service.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah, I was just, as far as the locations of the stations, does it not make sense to put them with the, where possible at least, with the fire stations?
So we have had preliminary discussions with the existing fire departments. The challenge, one, is space. Most of their bays are already consumed with apparatuses that they own or that they're planning to use. The other thing that has been expressed to us is that it could be a temporary measure for us as we're looking at building stations, but we're going to have a much higher call volume than a fire station will. And they're concerned that the constant tones going off and those types of things are going to interrupt the function of their fire department. So it has been offered to us as a temporary measure, but we don't believe it's a long-term solution.
Okay, so I guess tell me what a station looks like.
Certainly. So a station is going to look very similar to the fire stations that you're going to see here in the county. Our intent is to use metal buildings to reduce the cost of those stations. They're going to have multiple bays to be able to accommodate multiple ambulances in the future. We're building these for the growth of the county as well, so that we're not having to build new stations every time we need to add a new ambulance. So each station will be at least able to house 2 crews, even if they're initially housing 1. And we'll also plan for the city center stations to accommodate up to 4 ambulances. So those are planned out into the future, but they'll be metal buildings, much similar to the structure that you see in the fire departments currently.
Okay, and is there a formula that says, okay, if you have X number of residents, you need Y number of ambulances, or?
Unfortunately, there's not. There's not a national benchmark per se. We have our own benchmarks that we've been using, comparing to local agencies around us. How many ambulances they're using, what area they're covering. And part of the challenge with Bastrop County is the vastness of our size. We're almost 900 square miles, and frankly in kind of an odd shape. So it necessitates stations in areas that you may not normally put a station, but to service all of the residents of the county, it's necessary to put stations there.
Thank you. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, the fiscal impact, as you stated, is 10 cents per 100.
Correct.
Our packet says 10 cents per 1,000, so I just wanted to make everything clear that our packet should reflect 100 instead of 1,000.
That is correct. It's 10 cents per 100.
I figured that made more sense than
Yes.
1,000.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. McGrew?
So this is a question for legal. If the city chooses not to opt in, can we opt in at a later date?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question off top, but let me look into that and try to provide an answer, hopefully before the end of this presentation.
I can provide an answer if you'd like, Sylvia.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So according to this, you would have the opportunity to opt in, but after the measure goes onto a ballot, it has a year waiting period. So you would have to wait an entire year before you could opt back into an ESD.
And sort of the thought process to that was, let's see how it happens.
Sure.
I've got the taxpayers are on the hook for a dime, and I realize how important it is, but with values going up and everything else we're facing down the pipeline, that it sort of sounds scary. So I'm just thinking, for the council, if we waited, let's see how it goes. They have a 12 to 18-month implementation period. I am by no means suggesting that ESD is not important or ambulance service is not important. It's just, with everything coming down the pike for residents, the council was not, the draft budget does not show a tax increase for the council, so we're just being super conservative and super cognizant. But I will tell you, I myself have a very difficult time to let my dad visit me because I'm the one who gets the notices that say unknown ETA, 45-minute ETA, 0 ETA, no ambulances in the county, so.
And to Sylvia's point, you do have the option to opt out of this, but something I want to make sure that the council is aware. The current contract with Acadian Ambulance does end in May of 2025. That contract has been under negotiations for some time, and my understanding is there's not been a fruitful extension to that contract. So there is the possibility that they could cease operations in May of 2025. So we have a contingency plan set to at least be able to get to their staffing numbers by May of 2025 if they were to completely withdraw from the county. So that 12 to 18-month implementation period is to get to 11 ambulances. We do have an emergency plan to get up to the current Acadian staffing levels if they were to leave the county.
That's the conundrum we have to work under is the cost versus the public health and safety out there, and that's what we get elected to make those decisions out there. Any further questions, Mr. McGrew or for the city manager relative to this? Councilmember Foster.
First of all, I want to thank y'all for meeting with us last week and sat down for over an hour and got to ask all of my questions. And one of the things I was particularly impressed with was your dedication and your drive and how long you've been working on this. Would you, because I know you're not going to say, would you please tell us how long you've been working on this without any ever promise of compensation?
So this has been almost 2 years in the making that we've been planning and attempting to execute this measure. Over the last 6 months, that has turned into a pseudo full-time job for myself and the 2 other people that are working on this. We've been probably spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week uncompensated to try to get this measure to pass. So we don't have any financial interest in this. We're looking out for the health and safety of our residents.
And we also talk about some of the communities you visited and how that's been part of your research as well and how they've set up.
Absolutely. So we've actually spent time with a lot of the council members from different cities, with residents from the different cities to find out what their needs are. And we're hearing an overwhelming support for this measure. When we were collecting signatures for the petition to turn into the county, we found that we had over 98% support when we actually got the opportunity to explain this. When they give us 20 seconds to explain why we need this, we had people cutting us off saying, "You don't have to tell me anymore, I know we need this." So I know it's not a problem that's been brought to the council at this point, but we're hearing overwhelming support from the community that this is something that they want.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
What's the status with the county right now? For instance, if the city were to approve it, is it already approved with the county? How does that work?
So it is not approved with the county. There's a notice period that has to be undertaken with the county. The actual action date for the county will be August 12th, is when it will actually be voted on by the commissioners. There's a notice period and certain publications that have to take place, and that's the date for the public hearing and action is the August 12th date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. And can you also talk about, you and I talked about how you guys would connect with 911 and how you will have employees at our emergency center?
That's correct. So our intent is to employ dispatchers and dispatch supervisors for EMS. They will be trained emergency medical dispatchers to assist with triage, with CPR instructions, with basic first aid medical instructions over the phone. And we are already in preliminary talks with the county dispatch system to fully integrate with their system, to be on the same CAD system, to be housed in their dispatch center, and to have the ability to dispatch both fire, police, and EMS in a more cohesive environment.
Thank you. Certainly have the answers. City attorney.
Yeah, just for clarification's purposes, say we weren't a part of the initiating class that would potentially start for January 25. When would the, I guess, holdout period for the year that you described begin after election for us?
So that would be 12 months from the election, so it would be November of 2025 that the clock would officially run out. By theory, the next election after that would be May. If memory serves me correctly, please don't hold me to that, but I believe it would be May of 2026 would be the next ballot initiative that you would be able to get on after that 12-month expiration period. I do want to clarify, if the city were to opt out and go with a wait-and-see option, you would have the option to contract with the ESD if that's something that you wanted to do, to contract with the ESD to bring in those services to Bastrop in that meantime, if that's something you decide.
Thank you.
Councilmember Foster.
As you were gathering the signatures and getting a 98% success rate, what were the 2% saying?
Ultimately what you would expect, and that's that they don't want their taxes raised. I can tell you as a citizen of the county, I hate raising taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes than I have to, but I would pay double the amount that we're talking about today personally to ensure that we have better ambulance service in this county.
Okay, thanks.
One more try. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the efforts that y'all put forward on this and the efforts that y'all do with first responders every day. We really do appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All righty, we will move on to 5A, review rules of procedure to City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, and any proposed amendments to be brought back at a future meeting. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The city charter requires any rules of procedure, meaning how you do your daily operations, be amended by July of each year. We've skipped a few. It seems like you had one in 21, maybe in 22. So it's been a little squirrely. You did one in April. That was recognized in your packet. We have some new amendments that have been presented, and they are up on the screen. And so the question to council is essentially, is this it? Because we intend to bring it forward at the July 9th meeting. So if there's anything else that perhaps has not been submitted or needs to be discussed further, I'm happy to do that today.
Councilmember Lee.
I just have a quick question. Thank you, Mayor. So when I was reviewing it, some of what's in our rules of procedures is also in the charter. So I was wondering if we make changes in the rules of procedure and then the charter review committee comes back with opposite recommendations, how will that play out?
We'll have to revisit it. A resolution changes a resolution, an ordinance changes an ordinance. And typically, these can't be in conflict with the charter, and some of them are, so.
And just piggybacking on what City Manager offered, the charter would obviously take precedence over the policies that are stated here, but we would try to do our best to match and align those with what's going on with the Charter Review Committee, or what will take place over the next couple of months.
And that first meeting's already been scheduled for the for July 17th. They're now going to be the third Wednesday of the month until the committee decides to pick another day, or if that doesn't work out. And that's an item later on in your agenda. I think it's on the consent, actually.
Councilmember Meyer.
So, and that was my question, because some do conflict with the charter. So, question answered on that. So, the question you're asking, Sylvia, is if there's any more
Correct.
than this, and what is here, if we have opinions on whatever, is that going to be discussed in July when we
That will be
adopt it?
discussed in July, yes. This
Okay.
was really just to put it in front of you, because sometimes the emails, some of you fall off, we blind copy, don't know who opened, don't know who didn't. It's part of the open meetings. This is what we have received collectively, the city secretary and I, and through legal. So this is the list that has been put together. The item that is in your packet, some of the items are in green because you just adopted those in April. and those are proposed to be changed already in July. So that's the difference in the color in the packet. And again, this is already 10 sections from an April meeting, so I just want to make sure this is it before we come forward in July for discussion and/or debate.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments for our city manager prior to moving on? Is that the extent of the presentation, Madam
That is
City
it,
Manager?
sir.
Seeing up, Councilmember Foster.
I have a question. Was anything submitted that's not on here? Has anything been pre-edited or altered? Or is everything complete as submitted by the council member so far?
That is a question for the city secretary. I believe it is unedited, but
So would you please repeat that question? I think I heard you say you're asking if everything that you all submitted is included in the backup?
Yes, or was anything like edited, pre-edited for like clarity or fitting in the format, or is it everything like kind of as we presented?
Nothing was pre-edited. Everything is what you all submitted.
Okay, cool,
Yes.
thanks.
even though we know some are, some conflict with the others, we didn't, yeah.
That was my question, okay.
But that'll be open for discussion. Thank you. All righty. Council, we're going to change the agenda up a little bit because of some of the people that are in attendance tonight. We're going to move into executive session on item 10A. City Council shall convene to close executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.07 to advise the legal counsel regarding a potential long-term lease to the African American Cultural Center and Freedom Colonies Museum. It is 7:26. Council's in executive session. It is 8 o'clock. City Council has returned back to open session. I believe we have an action item on, or an action for item 10A.
I make a motion to direct staff to negotiate and execute a letter of intent with the Bastrop County African American Cultural Center and Museum.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Outstanding. Thank you, council. And thank you, Bastrop County African American Cultural Center and Freedom Colonies for your hard work. We will return back to our regular agenda, which would be citizen comments. I have first scheduled speaker is Desiree Venable. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Can I pass out a copy of that?
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Desiree Venable. I am running for Texas State Representative here in Bastrop. Bastrop County is one of the 5 counties in my district, but I also reside in the city of Bastrop. I'm here tonight to discuss a petition I've been working on for a charter amendment. Previously, I had helped an organization in Lockhart with their city charter amendment in regards to decriminalizing marijuana, which has been what's inspired me to start a similar effort here in Bastrop. I've been working with volunteers here in the city to inform our community members of the benefits of this amendment, as well as collecting signatures. And by decriminalizing marijuana, we can foster a more just and efficient society here. This approach will prioritize public health, respect individual autonomy, and ensure that public resources are used to the best and most beneficial way possible here in the city. For example, law enforcement agencies do spend time and resources on low-level marijuana possessions in cases that should and could be redirected to more serious crimes to enhance public safety and ensure better allocation of our taxpayers' dollars. I've actually spoken to several members of law enforcement here in Bastrop during my canvassing, and they have all that I've spoken to been supportive of the decriminalization of marijuana in the city. These amendments enhance individual contributions to the community. For example, when we criminalize people for possession, it does obviously make it harder for them eventually to join the workforce or obtain higher education, leading to unnecessary social and economic consequences down the road that do affect the broader community. The initiatives, similar to the one I'm doing, they also empower local democracy as well as individual freedoms by enabling our residents to have a direct say in how their tax dollars are being spent, as well as it ensures that our policies are reflective of our community's direct values and priorities. There is a bipartisan support for these common sense policies as well that I would like to point out. The decriminalization is increasingly recognized as a practical and sensible approach across the political spectrum. An additional benefit is the increased voter turnout that comes with these efforts. The voter turnout, as y'all probably know, is extremely low here in Texas. It typically is reflective of only about 40 to 60% of eligible voters turning out for elections. And I think it's our duty as community advocates, as well as our duty as community leaders, to bring about creative and innovative methods to bring out our voters. It is rare that people get to see direct democracy like this in the communities. And these kinds of popular issues will not only motivate turnout, as I just said, but it will likely help motivate continued engagement after this election cycle. There are 5 other municipalities in Texas that had similar amendments put on their ballots. They all passed overwhelmingly. The lowest amount of support being seen was 70% support in Killeen, Texas. And I am out of time, I apologize, but we are nearly finished and I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a business meeting, please. Thank you. Moving on, our next scheduled speaker is Stuart Bridges. Mr. Bridges. You know the drill. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Mayor, council. Let me put the right glasses on here. My name is Stuart Bridges. I live at 12 Lost Pines Avenue. I'm speaking for the League of Independent Voters. At the last council meeting, there was an executive committee discussion about the request by Pearl River developers for tax abatements in the form of a 380 agreement. The posted item did include the words possible action. However, there were no backup documents posted. All we saw after this, when the council came back from executive session, was the request by council for some changes and corrections to the proposal, and then action was taken as a first reading. We believe action taken as the first of 2 readings is improper. The public had no opportunity to look at the proposal, and we believe you're required to provide this information before taking any formal action. We believe the council is under the Texas Open Meetings Act to hold discussions about 380 agreements in executive sessions, but you can choose to hold them in public in the future. We are also asking that this be your practice, including tonight's discussion about the Valverde 380 agreement. This is the people's money you're talking about, so please consider letting us in from the start on these discussions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Next scheduled speaker is David Harwell. Mr. Harwell. Name and address. You got 3 minutes.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. David Harwell, 113 Wiley Court. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today. It's been a while since I've been here and since other folks have been here from the Recreation Center because you've been busy. I know you're still busy, but I want you to know that we're still in need. I'm going to speak briefly about the Recreation Center. Our classes have are very high in need and demand. So we are still at capacity for almost all of our classes. That includes our water classes that are going on right now at the state park. We don't have our own pool, so we use the state park. We're very grateful for the state park for letting us do that. But it should be noted that the state park and the pool that was out there was built in the 1930s, It was not built for Aqua Zumba classes. So there are very limited spots for students to be, especially if you're short. So if you were 5 foot tall and you are now 70 years old, you're probably not 5 foot tall anymore. The minimum, the most shallow part of that pool in the main part is 4 foot deep. So that means a lot of our folks are at the water line, so they can't participate. It also means that we can only have a few folks in those classes. We limit them to 25 right now because that's all we can fit around that ring. It's built like a bowl, and it's 9 foot deep in the center, so we don't have any 9 foot tall people. So we are also limited with the pool to 7 weeks of classes. I would say 8, but we're closed next week because of the July 4th holiday. So there's only 7 weeks that we can have classes in each week. We have 4 classes, so that's 4 hours a week times 7. And the rest of the year, people with mobility issues that need to work out in water, they just don't have a place to go, not unless they have money to go someplace private, because there are no other fitness, aqua fitness facilities in the county of Bastrop. Well, not public ones. So we are asking you to please think about pool facilities as well as recreation facilities. There is room in my 6:45 burn class, so if anybody wants to come to burn class, you can do that. All the other ones are booked up. And we have a community jam at the Bastrop State Park Pool. It's free for community members. It's on July 19th at 6:30 p.m. It's free public access, Aqua Zumba classes, 25 slots in the pool, so come early. Thank you.
Madam City Secretary, do we have anybody else scheduled to speak under citizen comments?
No, Mayor.
Thank you so much. We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to have any of the items pulled off of the consent agenda? On the dais, anybody in the
Yes.
audience who wishes to have any item removed off the consent agenda?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to talk about 8B.
Okay, well, Council, I'm going to try to keep my head on a swivel, but I really appreciate it if y'all would turn your light on so so I don't put a crick in my neck. I appreciate it. All right, we'll take 8B off of the consent agenda. Any other, in the audience, any other? Madam City Secretary, if we read the consent agenda exclusive of item 8B.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item 8A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from the June 11th, 2024 regular meeting. This concludes the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lee, a second from Councilmember Foster. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Osler?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. We'll move on to item 8B, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2024-18, approving the creation of the Charter Review Commission, appointing additional commissioners, providing for severability, providing for repeal, and providing for an effective date. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. At your prior meeting, each one of you appointed 2, and then the mayor, you added a 13th position. As we noted earlier, that those emails have gone out to the members, and they will meet on the 3rd Wednesday of each month at noon here in council chambers or in one of our meetings. And the goal is to have an item or any items on the May ballot so that we don't have to pay for additional election costs.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for our city manager? Seeing none indicated, I'll entertain a motion.
So, guess maybe I'll ask a question, point of order type question. I would like to have a discussion about modifying modifying it a little bit, but I can do that in the form of a motion, or I can talk about it, and maybe I'll just ask what your preference would be.
The item has been laid out by our city manager. There was a discussion called for. You're certainly entitled to make a motion.
Okay, so then I motion that we approve it with the addition of some discussion about consensus for the body in its voting. Okay, I'll just do this. So I motion that we approve with the addition of a consensus voting model that represents a 75% supermajority for the body to recommend items to council.
Could I make an amendment to that motion? I would like to amend, even though it may be assumed that the commission or committee will follow the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, I would accept that.
Then I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion indicated? I'm curious as to why a supermajority would be needed on a citizens committee, or why we would dictate such a majority to a sitting citizen committee.
Well, you know, as I considered this, I really wanted the group to seek out consensus, and I was part of a pastor selection committee at church, and we pushed that too far to a unanimous vote, and that ultimately turned into each individual had a veto that I felt kind of hurt the overall process. So then I looked to the United States Constitution, and this is a charter amendment process, so it's kind of like amending our Constitution. It's very similar to that. And the United States Constitution requires 75% of the states to ratify any requests to changes to that Constitution. And the reason for doing that is because they're seeking consensus. They're trying to make sure that the things that are proposed represent a vast majority of the states want that, are seeking it out and approve of it, so that you don't have, small states passing rules that apply to big states, or big states passing laws that apply to small states, and so on. And so I was just thinking that level with that example of our federal Constitution would be a reasonable way to seek out consensus.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I disagree. The whole purpose of adding a 13th member was so that we wouldn't have a problem with them being able to vote and having, a lockup because there's 12 members. We're not in Congress. We are asking residents of the community to form a committee to discuss charter amendments. Having a 13th member would ensure that there would be a vote yea or nay. Actually implementing a supermajority would reduce the ability to do a consensus, because now you are putting them in a situation where if there's a majority of people that think one way and then the majority of those people are sitting on this committee, then it's always going to go to that majority. The fair way to do it is by vote, simple majority vote, instead of giving someone or a group of individuals on the committee the power to override everybody else's opinion.
Councilmember Fossler.
The only time that council does requires a supermajority is when something's been like shot down unanimously and we have to like really, really galvanize. Is that true? The only times that we are required. And in those situations, it seems people are more involved with like jockeying their votes to make sure they win than having a free-flowing discussion. And I wouldn't want that for the citizens. I want them to have a free-flowing conversation where they're not trying to get a certain amount of votes to get a certain outcome, but they can really have a good brainstorming session. And I think it would actually inhibit what we're trying to do.
Councilmember Plunkett.
You're not on.
I certainly think if we want to get consensus, if we want to make it, I mean, this is, like Councilmember Kirkland said, I mean, this is our Constitution. The Texas Constitution requires, very little consensus. And so it's been amended, 700 times, whatever it is. And we keep having to do new constitutions because it gets so mangled up. The U.S. Constitution has been amended, I forget, but, it's less than 20. And that is I think the power of that Constitution comes from the fact that it is somewhat difficult to amend. That makes it hard to take away our rights. And I think if we're going to debate things, if we're going to have something, and again, this doesn't put it into the charter. This is just something that's going to go up to the voters. The voters will get to select it as as just a majority, a simple majority. So, I think for this, I think no matter where you set the bar for, pass or fail, you're going to have people jockeying for those votes, so to speak. So I would rather the committee spend time trying to get consensus and trying to get agreement among the whole group rather than have, okay, your side sits on this side of the room, my side sits on the other side of the room. We have a couple in the middle that could switch back and forth, and whoever can get those two to agree to come over to their side is going to get their way. So that's the way I see it.
Councilmember Foster.
Just to review the process, after, no matter how they agree, after the Charter Review Committee is done, doesn't it come to council for our input?
Correct.
And vote before it goes to the ballot? I don't
Correct.
see the need for tightening up the, what happens at the citizen level.
The U.S. Constitution, changing the U.S. Constitution requiring a 75% majority was designed to represent the diversity of the states in population, size, resources, and et cetera. Whereas within the city confines of 9.5 square miles of the city of Bastrop, it is a single citizen group brought together to create a charter amendments that reflect the needs and desires of the city. That's why it's a citizens review rather than just a council review. Although council does, has been earlier stated, council does have the final vote prior to it going to the voters at large. That being said, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think we're making an assumption here that we haven't collectively put together a group of people that would not be able to come to a consensus within that group. I think that creating a supermajority is actually, as Councilmember Foster stated, going to actually cause more problems within the discussions that are going to be had. And I would not want to put that on the citizens because I get the feeling this is, again, becoming a political discussion when you have a group of citizens that are going to be coming together to discuss charter amendments that we will ultimately have the final say on. Why are we implementing a supermajority in this temporary committee when that's not the practice for our other committees? Are we changing it for all the committees? If not, why are we doing it for this particular, what is the necessity, what necessitates a reason for doing it this way for this particular committee?
Councilmember Plunkett.
Well, I mean, I think anytime you vote on anything, it's a political discussion. So, you know, whether you, the only way to keep it less political is to increase the number of votes it takes to pass something. When it's a simple majority, that doesn't indicate consensus. That indicates that, you know, one more person on our side came over, you know, to their side. That's been a lot of the arguments about, you know, what's been going on here lately. So, I mean, consensus is, if you want to get people together, you know, make it a little bit more difficult, you know, then maybe people will compromise.
Why would we want to make it difficult? We don't want to make it difficult.
We want people to compromise.
Well,
we don't want people to just draw a line and say, okay, everybody on your side of the room, you know.
That's what's happening. And
right.
Can I finish my statement, Councilmember
I believe
Plunkett?
I had the mic, if I'm not mistaken.
Point of order.
Councilmember Plunkett.
But that's what you do. When you do a simple majority, you know, all you need is one more. Or try to get somebody on the other side not to show up, or, you know, mess around with the meeting times, or, you know. So, no, I think the supermajority is the way to go.
Councilmember Meyer.
So, Kevin, you just said exactly what I was going to say, and that's why my light was on, because the charter is our Constitution. It's a very serious thing. And to change a charter should reflect everything that the citizens want. So I'm going to take the opposite thought of what Councilmember Lee has, and I'm going to say because it is imperative that it reflects what the citizens want, a supermajority is required. It should be very seriously considered.
Councilmember Lee.
Well, a supermajority is not required because it's not part of our charter as we speak. We're trying to make an amendment to change it. So it's not a requirement. It hasn't been a requirement in any of the processes. One can only look at this and say, why? A simple majority, and then not all of the items, I think, may even come to a vote. The voting is only there as a backup. I think that this group is very capable of forming a consensus without a vote. And to implement a supermajority would indicate that they may not be. And why would somebody want to imply that unless you already know there's going to be? I think that this group is capable of getting together in a simple majority vote, not even having to vote probably on a lot of the items just through discussion. It is a group of volunteers that are getting together to do something for their community, and I don't think we should put something in place that's going to hinder that process.
Supermajority is good in certain cases. Some of us on this dais were elected by a majority and not by a supermajority, and some of us were elected by very close margins that spoke to the desires of the community. And whether a consensus was reached, a majority voted to bring us into office, and it was not a supermajority. I don't think by pinning this commission to a requirement of a supermajority is fair to the commission members or fair to our citizens as a whole. That being said, there's no other indication here. We have a motion on the floor. I have a second. If no further further comment or question, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
No.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Foster.
No.
Thank you, council. Motion passes 3-2. We will move on to items for individual consideration. Prior to doing so, council, let's see if I can't get a consensus of whether to go back into executive session to review item 10B is, we're going to move to item 10B. Council going to move into executive session to close executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel and possible action regarding potential request for a petition to create the Bastrop County Emergency Services District Number 3. 8:27, council is in executive session again. It is 8:51. Council is back into open session. We are waiting for our city attorney and our city manager prior to taking additional action.
He's trying to help him get in.
After discussion, as council discussion in executive session, I believe we have some further instructions for our city attorney, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, motion that we direct the city attorney to draft a resolution in support of creating the ESD number 3 and bring that back to the next meeting, and also to have a public hearing, a direction to the city manager to have a public hearing at that same meeting for public input and discussion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland and a second by Councilmember Lee. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Thank you, council. We will move on to our item 9, or items for individual consideration. Thank you, gentlemen. 9A, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-72, the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, accepting a donation from HEB in support of and as sponsorship of the Big Bang Special Event Fireworks Display at Fisherman's Park in the amount of $1,000. Ms. Moore.
So HEB is a big community supporter. They have supported the annual Patriotic Festival for years, and this is the second year that they have supported and reached out and wanted to be a sponsor of the Big Bang. So we're just asking for permission to accept the $3,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, we have a motion by Councilmember Plunkett, a second by Councilmember Fossler. No further discussion indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Item 9B, consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-19, the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the code of ordinances related to Chapter 12 titled Traffic Vehicles, Article 12.05 titled Speed Limits, amending Section 12.05.007 titled State Highway 21 Speed Limits, zoning for traffic, and rate of speed therein on State Highway 21 in the city limits of the City of Bastrop, defining speeding, fixing a penalty thereof, declaring what may be a sufficient complaint in prosecutions hereunder, repealing all prior ordinances that are in conflict herewith, and providing for findings of fact, enactment, codification, effective date, repealer severability, proper notice, and meeting as shown in Exhibit A, and move to include on the July 9, 2024 consent agenda for second reading. Ms. Higgins.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So the item you have before you tonight is an item to reduce the speed limit based on a text dot study on Highway 21, the stretch from Jackson Street to Chestnut, as you can see on the map here. It's about 3.93 miles. They're reducing it from 50 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour. Any questions?
Ms. Higgins has laid it out. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none indicated, I'll entertain a
Motion
motion.
to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer, a second from Councilmember Lee. No further questions or comments. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Foster?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Moving on to item 9C, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-71 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, authorizing a license to encroach agreement with Aqua Water Supply Corporation, care of Daisy Cameron GM, to encroach into public utility easement to facilitate expansion of Aqua WSC facilities as attached in Exhibit B of the license agreement, authorizing the city manager to execute necessary documents, providing for repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Ms. Higgins.
Thank you again, Mayor. So this next item that we have is a license to approach agreement for the Aqua Water Supply Corporation. They're looking to expand their boardroom. As you can see here on the screen, this dotted line indicates the currently existing 20-foot PUE, and in the bubble is the encroachment that they will be having. Each utility provider has signed off on this, saying that they are fine with this encroachment. Just as the last encroachment agreement that I brought before you, they will expire in 1 year. It is automatically renewed until the time that either the city or the party requests for the encroachment agreement to be dissolved. And we do also have the applicant here if y'all have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ms. Higgins? Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
So I noticed in the packet there was a discussion about trying to conform to the B3 code. And I guess my question is this where the applicant wants to put the building?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, fair enough.
Per the applicant, yes. Their justification is saying that they are intending to comply with the B3 code, which in P5 requires the building to be within 2 to 15 feet of the build-to line, I believe.
But I guess the nature of my question is should we consider relieving that for them, or is this where they want to put it? If this is where they want to put it, then the other question doesn't matter.
Yes.
So, got it. Thank you. So motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, a second from Councilmember Plunkett. No further discussion indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Foster?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Moving on to 9D, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-74 regarding a petition filed by JMA entity to remove track 2.33 acre tract lot and track 2, 5.292 acre tract or parcel of land as described in the petition from the city of Bastrop's extraterritorial jurisdiction pursuant to Local Government Code Chapter 42. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you is relatively new. We're going to see a lot of requests to remove from the ETJ as per the state legislature, who is revisiting this item through special committee. I'm speaking to Rep. Gertis about discussing issues of concerns of various cities on said committee. This is located near Highway 21 and 71 at Union Chapel Road. It is within 1 mile of the statutory ETJ. Actually, that should say it's included in the statutory ETJ. Here is the actual map. And it's in that area because the city limit line is right here at 71. And so the item before you says motion to approve. However, staff's recommendation is motion to deny. The applicant has received a letter. It is at the dais. They received a letter that was dated February 2nd, 2024, One, given the proximity of our ETJ, given that this item is still before the courts, I don't believe we enjoined the suit with Grand Prairie. Am I correct, Resin? We did not enjoin the suit with Grand Prairie, but over the abundance of caution, given its location, staff is recommending denial.
Can I, point of clarification, denial or do nothing? I think the letter from our city attorney said opted to take no action as opposed to denying or approving. Resin?
Yeah, just a clarification on that point. That is what the
Statute requirement.
the status and the action was recommended at the time of when we first kind of considered this ETJ position. That is really to preserve whatever direction that the council wants to go in, whether to approve, to actually release, or to deny it, and then essentially keep it within our ETJ. The ETJ law itself essentially gives citizens more ability to remove and release because of the operation of law aspect of it, which essentially says after 45 days or so that it's released as an operation of law. So us giving an affirmative direction, whether approval or denial, is still appropriate for this council to consider or vote on.
So move forward with the denial aspect is what the recommendation from staff. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. My understanding was we didn't have the option to deny, that it was the law says that is the law. They have the right to de-annex at will, and we have to abide by the law. There is no approval or denial. That's the law. I think that's my understanding. Every seminar, workshop I've been to is we don't have an option to deny.
Yeah, the city certainly has options. I think it's just a matter of, one, risk allocation and where you are on that scale. And, obviously, if we do take the action to deny, they could seek to initiate a suit just like the one that is currently pending before Grand Prairie. But, like I said, it kind of puts us in a weird position of, one, we have an absolute duty to verify each of these petitions, but we can choose whether or not we do take action or not.
I think taking action and saying deny are two different things. Not taking action and saying deny are two different things. And I might have not heard your whole statement about the Grand Prairie. I thought that you were referring to the lawsuit that's referenced here.
Mm-hmm.
But is there an actual lawsuit against the city of Grand Prairie right now?
That's a question for Resin. The lawsuit I'm talking about is the cities that were coming together to enjoin.
Right.
Mhm.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, well,
So
I believe
there's
we're
no
talking about the
lawsuit
same
against the
lawsuit. Yeah.
Now, is there a lawsuit against a city right now for denying the annexation request?
I believe there are two. I'm blanking on what cities they actually are, but they have chosen to enjoin the lawsuit from Grand Prairie against the state of Texas.
And whether we approve or deny, after 45 days, they're de-annexed anyway, right?
Based on whether or not the petition is verified, as the law currently stands, that is the position that they will take. But what I will say is that, let's say in the instance we do receive a lawsuit for the action taken, it's likely that the courts will abate that lawsuit until the finality of the ultimate lawsuit against the state of Texas.
So I think what Resin you're saying is action potentially preserve the city's rights.
It could in the instance of keeping this property within the ETJ.
But it really doesn't, because after 45 days, this lawsuit is going to exceed 45 days, I'm certain. And after 45 days, they're still removed, yeah?
It's 45 days of no response or no action from city council. So if city council takes action within that 45 days, the operation of law doesn't activate.
Wait, say that again?
So if the city were not to take any action for the length
Tonight.
of time for the operation of law, then that's when it would kick in and it would be automatically released But if the city does indeed take action, whether to approve or to deny the removal, then no longer is the operation of law clock running on that action.
Similar to a
The time
plat.
clock is not.
Similar to a plat. the
Correct.
shot
Time
clock.
clock's not. And the petition's already been verified by our city secretary.
Yes, that's correct.
We do have the applicant here in the audience.
You got other questions, Councilmember Lee?
My name's Ken Leonard. I'm from Georgetown, Texas, and I represent JMA entities. I'm their project manager. Mr. Muick has asked me to represent him today on this matter. I've been listening to your discussions here about taking actions and not taking actions. We submitted our petition back in October of 23. And this has been sitting on y'all's desk since that time. The one excuse I got, I can't remember when, back in November, I believe, or back in November of 23, I was told that, well, we don't have an attorney, we'll have to hire one and have somebody look over the paperwork. So now I see you have a city attorney. We've been constantly emailing and requesting that some kind of action be taken so that we can move forward with this project. What's holding us up right now is the city of Bastrop, because the county is wanting a letter from the city saying, yes, this has been released from the ETJ. Now, according to this section 42.105D, it says that basically, if you don't do anything with that petition after 45 days, regardless if you deny or accept it, it's automatic. And Bastrop is the only town that I've submitted, I think, 13 or 14 different petitions to the city of Austin, Georgetown, Pflugerville, Round Rock, and Bastrop. You're the only city that is stalling to keep us from moving on our project, moving forward. Everybody else? I've even went to the city of Austin and asked them personally about this lawsuit that supposedly is being brought up, saying that it was illegal for the state of Texas to say, yeah, you can get out of the ETJ. And they said they don't have any record of it. They don't understand what I'm talking about. So my question to you is, I need an answer. Are you going to approve our petition to move out of the ETJ into the county or not? It's as simple as that.
Mr. Leonard, what's the proposal that you're intending to build out there? What's the project?
He's going to be building a business park out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Council, this item's been laid out. We've had an opportunity. Councilmember Meyer.
Just for clarification, because we've had a lot of discussion, the recommendation is for denial.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, the item's been laid out. We've heard from the representative of the applicant. We've heard from city staff. We've heard from the city attorney. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to deny the resolution.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer.
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilmember Plunkett. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
No.
Councilmember Fossler,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion passes 3-2. We will move on to item 9E. Consider to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-20 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, adopting certain restrictions on the participation of registered sex offenders in programs or events involving minors, and certain restrictions on where registered sex offenders may go or reside within a specified distance of premises where children gather, as attached in Exhibit A, and providing for findings of fact, repeater, severability, codification, effective date, proper notice and meeting, and move to include on the July 9th, 2024 consent agenda for the second reading. Chief Stefanik.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening's proposal is for Council to consider action on an ordinance that restricts sex offenders from participating in programs that involve minors and includes sex offender residency restrictions. On September 1st, 2017, the Texas Legislature passed House Bill 1111, which expressly authorizes general law cities to prohibit sex offenders from going in a child safety zone, which is capped at 1,000 feet. The ordinance would be categorized under Chapter 8 of the Code of Ordinances, identifying pertinent definitions first. Programs involving minors would generally restrict an individual who is classified as a registered sex offender with the state of Texas and the city of Bastrop from participating in a program or event, athletic, civic, or cultural, from being a participant. The section would also require that a sex offender shall not, on October 31st, Halloween, leave a residential porch light on or otherwise invite trick-or-treaters who are minors to the premises. Next, a sex offender shall, consistent with state law, register with the City of Bastrop Police Department when establishing a permanent or temporary residence in the City of Bastrop. The requirements and stipulations are to an extent already established in their registration. However, the city ordinance would restrict registered sex offenders from establishing a residence within 1,000 feet of where children commonly gather. In addition, property owners would be prohibited from renting any place or structure or part thereof with the knowledge that it would be used as a permanent or temporary residence located within 1,000 feet of where children commonly gather. The broad definition of a child safety zone is where children commonly gather, and this would include, but is not limited to, city parks, recreation centers, arcades, public or private schools, daycare centers, or state-defined child safety zones. This does not include a church. There are exemptions listed in the ordinance that would be applied. Exemptions would not be contrary to state law and could be granted on a case-by-case basis. Such exemptions would be if the registered sex offender has complied fully with all the requirements and has already established a residence prior to the adoption of this ordinance. If the registered sex offender was a minor when the offense was committed and not convicted as an adult. If the registered sex offender is currently a minor. The premise where children commonly gather opened or was created after the registered sex offender established a permanent or temporary residence, and that registered sex offender is in full compliance. If the information in the state database is incorrect, if stipulations by a court dictate a restriction of less than 1,000 feet, in reference to Halloween, if the registered sex offender posted a sign that was in compliance, or if the registered sex offender applied for and was approved for an exemption to the residency restriction ordinance. A registered sex offender can appeal in writing to the chief of police this ordinance or parts thereof under certain circumstances. These circumstances would include if it is an unnecessary hardship, the nature and the circumstance of the event, if the registered sex offender is subject to a period of community service, conditions of parole, or they are seeking an exemption on the basis of reunification with family. In regards to statistical data, it's always fluctuating. The numbers associated are in constant fluctuation. Our department currently shows to have 18 registered sex offender. This has been as high as 40. Bastrop County reports, and again, this is a fluctuating number, that they currently have 303 registered sex offenders. In reference to our current 18, 16 of these are child sex offenders. These offenders fall into 4 different categories: low, moderate, high, and civil. The majority of the 18 are lifetime registrants, meaning that they are listed as repeat offenders and in some cases have been convicted more than once.
Can you define low, moderate, high civil?
For that, we have our child sex crimes detective, Detective Jordan, and he can give you a better breakdown. In response to the civil, I'll give you that one quick. It is if somebody is, typically if they're committed to some kind of hospital, or they may have some MHMR issues that are associated with them.
So generally, an offender would be classified as in the low category if his conviction was not a violent act, excuse me, like possession of child pornography, something that was not a physically violent act. Moderate would be he was convicted of, say, indecency, which there was sexual contact, but no forced penetration. Where you get into the high is where there was forced penetration or multiple counts.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for the chief? Chief, I'm going, this may be a question for you as well as the city attorney. I'm going to think that these are consistent with state and federal mandates.
Yes, sir.
And that this is the optimum we get relative to the public safety issue in this subject matter for our citizens.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
This map, well, I'll get to that in a second. What are the state laws in terms of proximity to locations where children gather if we did nothing?
So the state law basically just states that the city can enact an ordinance, but we cannot extend it more than 1,000 feet. It has to be 1,000 feet for where children commonly gather. So there's not a state law currently. So if that registered sex offender right now lived across the street from a school, unless it's already part of his restrictions, that's not something we can enforce.
And then on this map, what are all of these locations, schools and?
So essentially, the red would be the parks, there would be schools, private schools, daycares, public schools. And so what we did when I asked Robert with our GIS department to create this is to kind of give us an idea of taking into consideration where the parks and where these premises where children commonly gather, to mark out about 1,000 feet around each area. So that way the red would depict the majority of areas that would be off limits to sex offenders, registered sex offenders.
And off limits to?
Off limits for.
To live or off limits?
To live.
Okay.
Or to gather. So they could not be in that area. The living would be, it would be they can't reside in that area, and then they cannot gather if there is some kind of activity that is civic or cultural or athletic in that area.
Could they go to a restaurant in that
They can
area?
go to restaurants.
Okay.
Yes. They just can't participate in events, I should say. That is what they couldn't do. Now, they can go to churches. Churches would not be considered a place where children commonly gather. It would strictly be the ones that were defined, where'd I put it? It would be recreation centers, arcades, public or private schools, daycare centers, or city parks.
Is there an impetus for this coming to us today? Like, is there a reason? Yeah, what is the reason? Yeah.
So the reason is we just don't have one. And in 2015, I believe, there were 64 cities that had one. There's several cities that surround us, such as Lockhart, that has them in place. And so Bastrop, especially with the growth coming in, If you look at social media, sometimes you'll see some posts, or sometimes we get some complaints, hey, I've got a sex offender that's living next to a school. And so it was something that we have been working on for the past couple months, but we wanted to put the information together and present it to council for your input.
And Lockhart, do you know much about their ordinance? Is it similar to this?
It's
1,000
very
feet?
similar to
Okay.
this. Mhm.
I just want to add in there, as far as the restrictions go, this is probably the least restrictive way to go about implementing an ordinance like this. It's based off of the state law and what general law cities are able to do. There are some cities out there that have applied broader restrictions, but this one is indeed based on the state law. So
Broader, like what? I mean, what kind of broader restrictions?
I personally can't tell you what some of those examples are, as I wasn't the attorney that baked this up with Chief Stefanik. But
Yeah, and I apologize. The restrictions, the broader ones, is some cities, especially those that were at a population of about 5,000, were implementing 2,000 feet rules, essentially banning sex offenders from their cities altogether. So ours, some cities didn't have an appeal process written into them. Ours is you have the ability to appeal the exemptions, and we're within state law. A lot of those that were written prior to House Bill 1111 were not within, I guess, state law, so they had more kickback on what was going on.
And then on this, the map with the red dots, how do we make that like an official list so that an individual can look at it and know where they can choose to live?
I would probably just get with Robert with GIS and see if we can implement it. We can create the list, and then I can provide it to him and see if he can do something that we can actually publicize on our website.
Right.
We would put it on the police department's website, and then if the city chooses to do so, put it on the city's.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give the floor back.
Councilmember Meyer.
So I have been asked this question in the past before, because I think people assume, the citizens assume, and I assumed, honestly, that this was in place because we just think state law and this is, so I had no idea the common sense of this didn't even exist. So thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, that this is an action we need to take, because I think the citizens think this is already in place, because the questions I've gotten is like, how can this happen? This is over here by the school, and so this is greatly needed, and thank you for doing this.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to clarify something, because in the language, it does say, it talks about events. Generally, a sex offender should not participate in any program or event that includes minors, blah, blah, blah. But the actual resolution says sex offenders, restrictions on where registered sex offenders may go. To me, should we alter that language? Because reading the resolution like that, it seems like you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't go there, but then it says later on that you're only talking about events. So which one is it?
So there's two separate sections. The first section is applied to the events, and then specifically there's, in section A of the first portion of it, it is events. In section B, it outlines the Halloween portion and the leaving of the light on, and then when you get to the, I think it's like 8.02, it goes into the residency restriction. So it's actually two different sections. It's an event section, and then it is a residency restriction section.
I read that somewhere, and I thought I wrote all the Halloween stuff down, and I can't find it. So I remember what you're speaking of. I'm recalling that. So the resolution is just when I look at the word go, it's then breaking it down into those different areas.
Yes, ma'am.
Of what it pertains to, okay.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I do remember reading that, but I don't have it typed up here for some reason.
And I
Okay.
believe overall there's 4 sections. There's the event, there's the residency restrictions, it talks about the appeals and the exemptions.
Yeah, and I did see there were some exemptions regarding jobs, schools, and I didn't see church, so church is an exemption as well.
Yes, ma'am, churches are exempt.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah, just wanted to, clarify a few things. So, you mentioned that that most of them have, like 16 of 18 of the residents, I believe, have lifetime bans.
Yes.
What do those look like? Are those 1,000 feet? So are they already
So
already covered? I'm
no,
just trying to
the-
figure out who
Who you're grouping?
Correct, yeah.
So this would apply to anybody that we register after the ordinance is enacted. Now, the only portion that could potentially apply to our current sex offenders would be they would be prohibited from attending the events, and they would be required to participate in leaving the porch light on at Halloween. But their residency, we wouldn't tell them, hey, you have to move, because we've enacted this. So it would apply to new registered sex offenders.
Understood. But what I'm trying to get at is if there are 16 that are already on, 16 of the 18 are already on lifetime bans, are they not already restricted to that same area, or do they have different type of restrictions? What does that,
So-
I'm just trying to see what the delta is.
Yeah, so their restrictions are going to be individual. They will be already court-ordered in their registration. However, I don't believe any of our 18 has any restrictions on where they can live. Yeah, and so that's why we would like the ordinance looked at.
Okay, but they probably have event restrictions and things like that? Or I'm just trying to understand what they do
I'm sorry,
have.
say that again?
But they currently have event-type restrictions, or what kind of
No.
restrictions do they have if they're lifetime restrictions?
So the restrictions have to be put on them by pardons and paroles.
Right.
And none of ours have any restrictions on them at all, other than they have to register with me or whatever jurisdiction they're living in.
Okay.
That requires that they report to me their employment, their address, phone numbers, social media accounts, things of that nature.
Okay.
That's a statewide, you have to do that.
Okay, so the lifetime thing is that they're lifetime registered,
Yes.
not necessarily that they're lifetime restricted.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fossler.
I see one section where the property owners are prohibited from renting real property to sex offenders. And how do you get that education piece out there?
So that would be something that we would have to educate people on, and specifically make sure that it's outlined on social media and on our webpage. The caveat in that is that the person renting the property has to have knowledge that they're renting to somebody who's a sex offender. And so the only way that they would probably know that is if it's actually listed on the application or something to that effect. So when the sex offender comes and registers with Detective Jordan, they would put the address down and he could follow up with them and say, hey, by the way, did you know this person was a registered sex offender? Does it say it on your lease? Did they mark yes or no in whatever checkbox they have? So that's one of them things where we're not out to say, hey, you did this wrong. It's more or less just a checks and balances kind of situation.
Yeah, it's not on a standard lease,
Mhm.
and the property owner is held liable in this. It's not the renter for.
Right. Well, it would be the renter if they are a sex offender and they weren't supposed to be there because they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. So my last question is about parks. So are they restricted completely from parks?
Yes, ma'am, from city parks.
Whether there's an event or not?
An event
They
or
are
not.
not supposed to be in a park?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
So we have 16 of 18 that are lifetime. What is the other 2? Not with specifics, but just what does it mean to be not lifetime?
So if you're not a lifetime registrant, to get off the registry, it's what they call a post-10. So 10 years after you've completed your sentence, if you have no other violations, you've complied with what's required of you, then I could submit the paperwork to have them removed from the registry.
And then this ordinance would not apply to them?
Correct.
Okay.
So Chief, we have 18 registered within the corporate limits of the city.
Yes.
There's 303 that have been counted within the county. What about those who are on the immediate peripheral to the city? Is there some correlation and cooperation with the county so that we can identify for public safety purposes those who may not reside within the city limits but right on the peripheral?
Constant. They keep Detective Jordan busy for the most part. And then the fluctuating numbers is if they decide to come over into the city, they have to come see Jordan to register, and vice versa if they leave the city. And it's not just Bastrop County that we liaison with, but we do it with Austin Police Department. We do it with pretty much everywhere, including across state lines. So that it's just one big tracking system that we have to constantly monitor.
I anticipated that response, but it's still a sigh of relief. I can say that right now. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. All righty, we have, the chief has laid this item out. We have asked questions. Do we have any other questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion with Councilmember Meyer.
Second.
I have a second with Councilmember Fossler. No further discussion is indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Chief, to you and your department. Item 9F, consider action to approve the second reading of resolution number R-2024- of City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending a contract for the update to the 2016 Comprehensive Plan to Half Associates, Inc., to increase the contract price by an amount not to exceed $40,280, hereby attached to Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Madam City Manager.
Thank you. This item was brought back on individual consideration at the request of Councilmember Lee for some clarification to the contract language that makes, that identifies what that $40,000 is going to be used for. Sorry for the small font. It's included in your, it's included in the agenda packet. Essentially, $8,500 is enhanced technical review. Now that some of our plans have come out or are in draft before they had been in conceptual. Added hazard risk analysis and land use planning, specifically the new Atlas 14 and wildfire. Adjusted staff rates and travel and supplies. And we have Half and Associates here for any additional questions.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm still struggling with the $40,000. I just feel like it's an enormous amount, an enormous increase for something that contractually we weren't obligated to do. And if the price changed, why would we not do another RFP?
It's a question for legal.
Yeah, so on the aspect of the RFP, in order to continue to work with Half and Associates based on what we've already followed on the procurement process, an amendment to the current agreement that we have with them would be the easiest and probably the smoothest way to go about, just changing up what is the scope of the actual comprehensive plan review.
Well, thank you, Resin.
Yeah.
But that's where I struggle because I don't see much of a change. I saw something in there about travel time and admin costs, enhanced technical review. We never started the review to begin with. No work was done. Adjusting staff rates by $19,000 over a 2-year period. I'm having a hard time understanding where we went to $40,000. And again, it was something we didn't have to do. We need it done. I just have a really hard time with jumping from something that was never started. It's like if I contract somebody to come fix my AC, and for some reason I have to go out of the country for a year, and then I come back and say, hey, I still need my AC fixed. He never started the work. We didn't change the terms of the agreement for the repair. If he says, okay, I've increased my site visit to $95 from $75, okay, I get that. We're talking $40,000 here for something that you guys were already gonna do. And adding the word enhanced sounds great, but staffing rates at $19,000, it just seems excessive to me. Nonetheless, I know that it needs to be done and it will be the will of the council. I'm just very not happy with the $40,000. Some of the things I want to make sure we're still going to do is the community engagement piece to include planning and zoning as the steering committee. And there were 3 P&Z meetings that were supposed to be there. There was also a land use workshop that was part of the original agreement, and a public open house that was part of the initial agreement. So I want to make sure that all of those things are still part of the scope. And then, Sylvia, have we determined who our project admins will be on the city side?
Yes, that's going to be Kennedy, Alondra, Doc, myself, Andres, Viviana.
What was the second name you said?
Kennedy, who's our senior planner.
You said Kennedy, and then you said somebody.
Alondra.
Alondra. Okay. Doc and Andres.
Doc, Andres, Viviana, and myself.
Viviana. Okay. Just not happy with the $40,000. Thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate, because you listed off all the public meetings, and so we do have and hi everyone, Melissa Beaudry. Address is 1512 Chelsea Lane, Austin, Texas. I don't know if I need to say all of that with Half Associates. I'm not in public comment, but we do have here, we went through, because we do know that the 2 languages were different from the original scope and the one that we gave you all. But we went through and looked at everything to confirm, because I remember that was a point that you made last time, to make sure that there was just as much of the public engagement. So we do have the 2 technical committee meetings, the 3 stakeholder listening sessions, 1 public meeting, 1 city council workshop, 3 planning and zoning briefings, 1 city council meeting. And then we can always adjust that with the admin team if that needs to be looked at a little bit differently, but it would still be to that level of public engagement. So that's how we had listed it off all there.
Land use workshop?
That would be, yes. So that would be that part of the city council workshop would be the land use workshop, and then the 3 planning and zoning committee meetings as well. And we do, just to clarify again, the 20,000 is really that rate increase over 2 years, and because that's how long it took. And the risk and hazard analysis, that's something that I'll be working on directly. So I hope that you see value added there, and that is part of really what wouldn't have been included before. So that is addition that we saw we're wanting to do in all comprehensive plans for our clients moving forward. We see it as a major need for communities into the future, and so that is that added value piece. But we appreciate your consideration.
Certainly concerned, it's a 33% increase over what the original contract was. So
Yes, sir.
I think that the questions that we're generating are part of that concern. Have the existing studies review been started?
Before the ones that you all were in review during the process? I think my understanding, and Ilda wasn't able to be here, she's on family vacation, but there had been meetings held with the city departments, and there had been very baseline analysis done, and that would have been, we could pull up the records from what was previously billed, but the technical review was not majorly underway, so that is the addition. There is some of it that was done, but baseline level. So that technical review is for those additional studies that have been done.
Task 2.01 was relative to the review of existing plans and projects.
Yes, sir.
And what all, and so that has not been done, is what I've understood?
That has not been
initiated?
completed, no. I don't believe so. I'll go
You
verify
said
that. My
completed,
understanding.
hasn't been initiated, I guess is my.
I'd have to go back to those records of the previous, but what we were told in the redesign of the proposal was to start new. So even if we had some of that review, it would be not, obviously we wouldn't do word for word the same review, but was to restart that process and look at it holistically.
I was just, the reason I'm asking that is because with the 33% increase, I want to see if the work has already been done, or are we just going to redo the same work for the incurring additional costs?
So I'm going to rewind a little bit because we do have to talk about that. So if you recall, we presented during my tenure here, as soon as you guys had several master plans under review, your transportation plan, which has still not been finalized, your drainage plan, which also has still not been finalized. And we'd begun discussion on the comp plan. Well, the comp plan should inform those plans, not the other way around. So we had already spent several hundred thousands of dollars on those plans, which in the discussion of those plans yielded the result, especially for the drainage plan, that even if you did everything that that drainage plan said, you weren't going to save any more houses than were currently on the ground. And so that's one of the discussions with HAF is that, yes, I know you have a draft drainage plan, but after we've assessed the risk versus the cost, we've got to figure out a different way to do that, and the comp plan should drive that. The cost of that plan is also going to drive that, but it is certainly not, the cart before the horse kind of thing. And so, and then there's also the wildfire interface, which you've been asking for some time, which also wasn't included in, so part of the review. So when I had a discussion with HAF, it's almost like a hard reset because we were going down a path that we were going to end up at a place where several hundreds of millions of dollars were going to be spent at what benefit to the residents, at what benefit to the town other than additional debt. So that's a lot of the technical review, and that's a lot of the hard reset.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
So, make sure I understand what you said. So when you came on, we had this on the table, the comprehensive plan review was on the table, the master transportation and the drainage. And you're saying we should have started with the comprehensive.
You should have started with the comprehensive.
So why didn't we start with the comprehensive?
You'd have to ask before
You
Sylvia.
said, but I'm asking because you said that was already on the table when you got here.
No, the master plans were already on the table and ready to be delivered in their draft form for council adoption. The comprehensive plan came in like April or so I came in October.
You came in
plan,
October,
yeah,
and then
that plan was before y'all in April, but they had been in discussion and actually participatory in some of the other master plan discussions. It goes back again to what, hindsight's 20/20, and I can armchair quarterback this 10 ways to Sunday and tell you what we should have, could have, would have done. We're at the point right now where we know there are things that don't work, but statutorily, constitutionally, we should be looking at the comprehensive plan. That should inform all of our decisions.
I know, but then that takes me back to the $40,000 because the last meeting you said the reason why the city didn't execute the agreement and we have to pay this amount was because you were of the focus on the B3 code and all these other things.
Well, that and a pause to the other plans. And a pause to the other plans is exactly what I said.
My question then is, but you're now saying this should have been done before that. Why wasn't that determined then? Is where I guess that's where I'm missing the connect, because you said you came in, this should have been done first. The other things were more pressing.
No, the other things were already near completion by the time I came on board. They were already near completion. We had already expended hundreds of thousands of dollars on some of those other plans by the time I came on board. So at the points of, the chicken and the egg kind of thing. And yes, we could withdraw it and we could go out for bid. I venture to tell you, we're going to be in the same boat. The only difference is on additional delay.
Well, that's not even, I'm still on the fact that you said you came in and these things were on the table and we should have been doing this first. I'm confused as to why, if that were the case, why are we here now? Because I would have thought then that would have been determined.
So your
in
draft master
April.
plan?
Let me ask you a question. So in April, were we already so far along in the other plans?
Yes.
That
Your
it was
draft.
a moot point?
Correct.
Got
Your draft drainage plan already had substantial staff comments. And if I'm remembering correctly, at December of '22 or so, the draft drainage master plan was ready to be delivered to the council. We withheld it. We didn't get it delivered until '23 because we still wrestled with this is $100+ million proposition. What are we gaining for that? Because we were talking about a drainage impacts fee and all of that other good stuff. All of those horses were nearing the finish line already.
Thank you, council. The item's been laid out. Comment has been provided. Questions have been asked. Are any further questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question.
I have a question from Councilmember Foster.
Thank you. For the, sorry, looking for the one community, is public invited to all the meetings?
Yes.
Really? Will they all be held? Okay, I just want to make sure we have an active public and one meeting ain't going to cut it for them. Okay, thanks.
And I will venture to tell you, there's probably going to be super significant discussion now that everybody's kind of getting better focus on what the results are. You know, because when I started, oh my God, the B3, the B3, the B3. And now that you've shifted into focus a little bit, you know, the way the eye doctor continues to change the lenses, it's like, oh, okay, now I know why that's important. Oh, okay, maybe that doesn't match and we need to look at that. I venture to tell you, we're going to have many more public meetings that are included in this proposal. They don't have to be at, because to your point of another hourly bill, or we may need to move some hours. But Planning Commission alone, I think, has a Saturday school that we're planning just to even begin to lay the foundation of where we are, understanding all those draft plans and how they fit into. So by the time they come in, half comes in, Planning Commission has a grasp of what it is we're facing.
Councilmember Foster, your light is still on. Do you have other questions? Okay, we're going to try this again.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett, a second from Mayor Pro Tem
Echo.
Kirkland. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Secretary, if you will, call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
I'm going to say yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee, you will not regret it. Planning Commission is your liaison committee. You will not regret it.
Thank you, council. We will move to item 9G, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-78, proposal from Terrapop Pave International, a University of Texas Technology commercial line for $59,841 as a sole source provider for a fog seal street sealant known as TerraCool. Madam City Manager.
Mayor and Council, this feels like deja vu. You watched a presentation regarding Terra Pave that we had planned for Piney Creek Bend. As suspected, when the representatives were at Piney Creek Bend, the residents were super interested as to what was going on and what was happening, and super concerned about the environment in that area. The conversation about heat and black asphalt was discussed. TerraCool is a different product that the HOA president, Gene, has suggested that goes on this particular area. It has shown to be up to 18 degrees cooler than what is regular asphalt. We are in a proof of concept stage. That's the reality of it. We are throwing everything but the kitchen sink at our street problem, at our street issues on how to get this improved. The prior purchase of Terra Pave, so the county paved Hoffman Road, and so we have the first mile of Hoffman Road in the city limits. So we're going to use our prior purchase on that mile to see how it compares. A chip seal covered with Terra Pave and no chip seal covered with Terra Pave. And we should be able to see the results of that pretty quickly. So this is a little bit more expensive, which is why it's also in front of you. I didn't want to do a bait and switch and you go, how come we're laying concrete? Because it almost looks like concrete when it is sprayed on. It's lighter and gray in color. So you can see the difference in price. It was previously $3.33, and it's $3.58, which is the difference of about $5,000, I believe, in your packet. That is a pretty good descriptor of what it's going to look like in comparison to a black asphalt road.
Yeah, can I add that? My name is David Pham from Cedar Park. I'm the president and one of the chief technology officer of the company. The reason why we create this product is we call it the TerraPave Cool Pavement. Okay, as you know, worldwide, city been heating up, over 100 degrees. And there's two type of cool pavements out there. One is like a paint, okay? They just paint over the road, okay? So they just seal it. Yeah, lots of problem with that. Actually, our product is a little different. Our product actually is a chemical reaction. It becomes the road. So that's the reason why it's not only going to cool the road down, but it's going to make the road last longer because it's not covering up the road. It becomes the road, okay? And this product take over 10 years to develop at the University of Texas. So we have tested with the Nevada DOT, City of Los Angeles, City of Austin is getting ready to do it, City of San Antonio. So pretty much a lot of big cities worldwide are doing this. So the best thing for the neighborhood is, there are so much, okay, just on the technical part, okay, we are not a paint. Our product will become the road, okay? Because when you have a paint, there's a technology with paint. So when you paint the road, you have to put some kind of petroleum product in it for it to stick. Just like you paint your house, you have to be petroleum product in order for it to stick. So it's non-eco-friendly, but our product is 100% eco-friendly. Okay, and then as paint, as you know, you paint something, and the weather come in, especially water on the road, it will lift. Okay, so that's a lot of major problem about the cool pavement products. So you don't want the paint. You want the product that becomes the road. So our product is a chemical reaction. What we do, we change the heat absorption index of the road. So instead of absorbing the heat, so it's not only going to affect the morning, but it's also affecting nighttime. So nighttime, your neighborhood can become cooler also. Okay, and then we tested at many cities, and our product, the lowest our product. The highest temperature of our product is 18 degrees, so I think we can improve a lot more than that, okay? Most of the product are like 3 or 4 or 5, nothing come close to our product of 18 degrees lower than, lower the temperature of the street. So, there are so much benefits. Our product, you only need a water truck to put it down, and it cure within 15 to 30 minutes, so you don't have to close the street down for very long. And then, it look almost so like the neighborhood. You have the street and you have the concrete sidewalk. We don't have to worry about that. We can spray everywhere. You want to get on the concrete, so it's cool down the concrete also. So you don't have to worry about, how far you have to spray it. So yeah, just go in there and spray, and then it'll be done. The whole street will be cured in 15 or 30 minutes. So and then this is a backup to the University of Texas, so you will have a company that will never go out of business to back you up right here.
I think we have a couple of questions. Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say how nice it is driving around town and seeing so many miles of fresh pavement. Great job by the streets. Yeah. Very, very pleased about that. Second of all, is this intended to go over concrete also, or just still asphalt?
Yes, so you can put this on. We recommend this because many other cities, they're not only going to put it on the street, they put it in parking lots where they made of concrete or asphalt, because parking lot, that's where, you want to cool down that area so you use less energy, Mm-hmm. So if you say this building right here, if we spray the parking lot, then you would use less energy to cool this building down because the whole area can be cooler. So it will work on asphalt, it will work on concrete, work on anything, because actually it's absorbed into the material.
Okay, and my last question is, how does this fail?
How does it fail?
Yes, does it just wear off? Or
Oh, no,
does
sir.
it,
So,
you know,
yeah, we,
'cause
we,
it's obviously not going to last 100 years, so.
well, yeah,
just
nothing
curious.
lasts 100 years,
Right.
especially when you drive on it. So we did a product. This product is very new, new technology. It came from the core product that we did it from the. It's a byproduct of the lumber industry. So that's why our product won. Last year we won the #1 eco-friendly product in America, actually, and then the year before that we won the top 10 eco-friendly product by the United Nations in the world. So this product actually we did it for the city of Austin. With a different product, but the base the same material. We did that when we first came out this product 8 years ago. If you go there today, it still looks brand new today. So we don't know how long this product will last, but I can guarantee you it's gonna last a long time. Okay, so we have no idea how long the street, because that's a very heavy street that the city of Austin they put on South First Street in Slaughter. It's a very heavy traffic street every day, and then if you go there today, it still looks like we did it like yesterday, brand new. So we don't know how long this product will last, but I can guarantee you it will last plus 6-7 years. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
put at the location at Slaughter by the Academy, in front of the Academy.
Can I show you a video on this? It's very cool, actually. Yeah, can you put on the video? I mean,
And so when John and I traveled there, the areas of failure, and it has been 8 years and a very heavily traveled road, the areas of failure still remain those big turning radiuses, the trash trucks, but in areas where it wasn't put in, where it was just a chip seal, those areas are already deteriorated down to almost base, whereas the areas that are covered with this are deteriorated, but they're still deteriorated down to the first layer of chip seal.
In areas of greater urban density, temperatures are often higher than surrounding rural landscapes. This is known as the heat island effect. You may have felt this effect in areas with lots of hard surfaces, like concrete and asphalt, which absorb, trap, and radiate heat. The good news is that we can lower local temperatures by planting trees.
A tree matures or bears fruit after a period of 4 years.
As we deal with the extreme summer heat, the city of Phoenix is testing a pilot project to try and lower temps around town. The city is teaming up with researchers to see if using a different kind of cooling pavement could help make a difference.
I'm looking at a map of surface temperatures in the Phoenix metro area. So this is in Arizona in the southwest US, and it shows how hot the ground is in June. And this is a map of child poverty rates. Darker blue means more poverty. So this is heat, and this is poverty. Heat, poverty. The correlation is pretty obvious. This is where it becomes clear that climate change and wealth inequality are not really separate issues. And you can probably find examples of that wherever you go in the world.
Tonight, dangerous heat baking millions as record high temps stifle portions of the country. Extreme conditions stretching from the southeast to the southwest. 86 million Americans seeing temperatures reach into the 90s and 14 million seeing highs into the triple digits. Phoenix reaching a sweltering 113 degrees yesterday, smashing the previous daily record of 111 degrees. About 2 weeks out from the official start of summer, but the U.S. is already shattering records. Last month was the hottest May on record and the 12th straight month of record heat. And the high temps will certainly take a toll on your wallet. Extreme heat expected to drive home cooling costs to a 10-year high, with the average U.S. electric bill expected to reach a staggering $719. NBC News correspondent Liz Croyt starts us off tonight.
It's really a threat to public health at that point because you just don't have an opportunity to cool off.
All this as NOAA says carbon dioxide is accumulating faster than ever in the atmosphere, acting like a blanket over the Earth and warming the planet. New data released by the EU finds globally the last 12 months have each been the hottest ever on record.
We need to take extreme heat very seriously. People are dying.
And we should mention that extreme heat is the most deadly natural weather phenomenon in the United States. It actually kills more people than hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods combined. So
the current heat wave has reached nearly every corner of the world, and experts warn rising temperatures are becoming more common and extreme due to climate change. In tonight's American Innovation, CBS's Ben Tracy shows us how some U.S. cities are taking to the streets to cool things down.
All right, we are in the thick of summer. You can feel it. We all know this heat isn't going anywhere.
No, unfortunately, it is not.
So crews with the city of Austin are testing cool pavement technology.
Yeah, engineers are exploring ways to use a new material to keep roadways in good condition and possibly reduce temperatures all across the city.
The cool pavement technology is an exciting technology that we're bringing to neighborhoods in Los Angeles to make sure that our pavement contributes less to the heat island effect that we get in so many neighborhoods in the city. But in addition to doing the pavement, we're also doing trees, we're also doing sidewalks.
The majority of Americans live on islands. They're just not the usual kind of islands that you're thinking of. They're urban heat islands.
What's happening is heat is literally getting trapped in this urban center. So if you can think of a dome overarching the city, all the carbon emissions, whether from the buildings, from all the people within it, or just traffic, that plus air getting trapped within the tall buildings and the narrowly placed buildings, all of that is building and building and it has nowhere to escape. A New York-based study that measured temperatures between the South Bronx and Central Park, and there was a 20-degree difference during the daytime. The difference can be as far as 22 degrees Fahrenheit, even at nighttime.
So the big question will be adaptation. Do city planners really start thinking about what they need to do to make cities more livable as temperatures are rising?
Yeah, can I show you a test that we did for the city of Las Vegas of the Nevada Department of Transportation? Can you bring up the PDF?
Hopefully it's a short video.
Yeah, no, for this one is a very short PDF, so. Number 2. Yeah, so can you blow that up a little bit? So as you can see, our product is not a paint. Actually, it's reacted with the street. So this is compared back in June in the city of Las Vegas. The asphalt temperature 127 degrees, and when you spray a product up on top, it went all the way down to 109. That's an 18-degree change. That is huge. And then if you look at all the other competitors, they barely got 3 to 4 to 5 degrees, because our product actually, we changed the heat absorption index of the street. That's the reason why our product, there's a lot of benefits, but that's the reason why our product costs a little bit more, But I have been able to beg the University of Texas board director to give you a very good price here. We brought it down very, very low for you guys. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate any green aspect of anything that we can do.
Yeah.
Is so important. So I really appreciate that. So I am the living test of that meter right there, because every day, and I live on streets that don't have sidewalks, and I'm either running or I'm walking my dog, but I'm out, I'm in the city, I'm by my house. I can't go on the street, these beautiful, and I love our new streets, I do. Mm-hmm. But the black, I can't go on those.
Yeah, your dog can't either, man.
I can't, the dog absolutely can't. And I have to put and I'm talking like late at night, I have to put my hand down on that. So the radiation of the heat is tremendous and it has a huge effect. We don't have sidewalks everywhere. And also, physically, it's better to run on the street than it is a sidewalk. It's better for you to do that. Yes. But we don't have sidewalks everywhere for people to have the options, so we have a lot of citizens that have to be on the street. Yes, so this, for health, this is imperative that we do this for the citizens.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, absolutely. Dogs, they have to put shoes on them, for some dogs, because they'll get their paw burned because of the street. But with this, with 18-degree change in the street minimum, you can see the difference right away, right after we put it down.
Yes. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. So, City Manager, this wasn't, this cooling texture, I guess, wasn't considered the first go-around at all?
No, I wasn't even aware they had.
Wasn't even aware it was there. So now that we are aware that it's there, would this be the consideration then maybe for all of our street maintenance that we're going to be doing?
It should be for those items
so
that have chip seal. We became aware of yet another product they have called Terra White. that is actually third world country use where they lay base, they spray a material, it's pervious, so that will help in our drainage, our parks, those areas. So again, just trying to bring all of the tools forward. The areas that are chip sealed and ready for that kind of overlay, yeah, but we're in proof of concept stage.
Yeah, gotta recommend, because this street, this product is more expensive. So the street that you have, where you have chip seal, where you don't, out in the country somewhere, we don't have to worry about the heat. We use a TerraFog because it's less expensive. It does the same work, it will seal your street, it will make it last for a long time. But because this product is a little bit more expensive, we recommend you to put in neighborhoods, like parking lots, where a lot of people live around there. So it will cool that area down. But where you don't have so many people around, we can use a less expensive product. It's still eco-friendly, still work the same, it still make your street last longer, but it's a little bit expensive.
I think that was going to kind of be my next question, why Hoffman Road? But we're using what we were previously going to use on Hoffman just as a test.
Yes, and that was through our partnership with Bastrop County. Commissioner Beckett's district actually did all of the chip seal, and we just paid for the material. So because they did more than a mile, they did our city limits and then they went further, it would be a perfect test to see how much this material lasts longer than what is just chip sealed.
Great. Do we have a time frame in here somewhere?
This,
I don't remember.
This is dependent on the HA5, and I'll let John talk through that. We should be done with HA5 late July. We were anticipating to be done in June, and then Piney Creek Bend will pick up, and then we move to street repair. We move to Water Street, and we move to some of the bigger items, and then begin the cycle.
So Piney Creek around maybe August,
yes.
September?
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is like big technology, sir. So I was wondering if, when we do this, all the city invite the news and everybody to come here. It's a big deal, actually. So we would recommend you, to when we do this, so when we have the news come here, and then, you guys are the one that make the decision, so
This
you get
also,
the benefits for it.
Sorry, it's also applied with the water truck, and our water truck is en route. We don't have the water truck received just yet.
Yeah, and also the Texas, the TCEQ, they have what they call the Environmental Excellence Award. When you put our product down, I recommend the city manager to apply for this award, and I can guarantee you the city of Bastrop will receive the Texas Environmental Quality Excellent Award for using our product.
That big of a deal, we should charge admission for somebody curtail some of the costs on that. Do we have any further questions? Items have been laid out, questions have been asked. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer.
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. Seeing no further discussion or questions indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so much.
Councilmember.
We're pretty excited about this.
Thank you, sir.
This new
Thank you, Mayor,
technology.
and thank you, City Manager.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
We're fixing to move into ACM time. Consider action on 9H. Consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-76 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, authorizing the city manager to award the request for qualifications, RFQ, for indefinite delivery, indefinite quality, IDIQ, for engineering services to 18 firms as shown in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documents with selected firms, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date.
Mayor,
Mr. Rosales.
Mayor, Council, yep, we've been bringing this back several times. This is the final. We're asking to award the final to, we narrowed it to 60 submittals to the 18 firms that we're selecting. An Exhibit A, or on the staff report, I listed out which firms will be under each one. Some firms are in certain ones, so that's why there's 18 total firms, but some firms have double, they're in different categories. So it's more than just the 18 firms, but 18 specific, and then they have different groups that do different things. Any questions?
Any questions for Assistant City Manager? Councilmember Lee.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I still have a question. regarding when we would use them. My concern again is everything that I've read says that IDIQs work better for smaller projects under 10 mil. So my question, if we have a project that has a lot of moving parts, millions and millions and millions of dollars, over 10 millions of dollars, in what scenario would we do an RFP instead of using an IDIQ?
Well, so for an example, we plan to use this IDIQ maybe for Water Street on the north side if we want to do, if we need to get in there and do some design work on the specific street, that may be a $5 million project, and so we may bring that forward. When we do, I'm trying to think of another project that we may do, like the phase 2 of the
Wastewater treatment plant, yeah. I think, Councilmember Lee, the real impetus for this IDIQ is not necessarily the amount of the contract, but rather giving us the flexibility to sub out as needed. We have lost that control in our current process.
Well, it's not even about the amount for me, it's the expertise.
No,
Sure.
absolutely.
Right.
And so these firms, everything that we picked along the continuum has expertise around a wide variety. We did our due diligence, we checked their city references, we checked their personal references. So for me, it is a matter of being able to cherry pick those expertise that I need. So for example, in the case of Water Street, in the case of the repair of Water Street, which from Gutierrez to Chestnut will be in this year. We have repair to do, we have significant repair for water and wastewater to do on the northern side of Water Street. The way it currently sits now is I've got to engage an engineer to get a surveyor who then marks it up. And so in the beginning, I may just need to understand what the limits of that construction are. And so I should be able to go to this and pick it as opposed to making sure things are sandwiched and I'm not having to pay that super overhead. That's the position that we found ourselves in with Valverde and Pearl River as we needed to understand what that pipe bursting was going to look like, what those limits of construction needed to be along that TxDOT right-of-way. I had to go to an engineer who could then sub to a surveyor, which meant an increase in cost to us. And then we found out there's a gas line being laid that nobody knew about. So, that's a whole different story. For me, it's us being able to control how much I spend and when I spend it. That's really what this is about. It's given us the flexibility to say, you know what, Wiley Engineering is perhaps only good at the fire and the mechanical electrical. We're not going to use Wiley, but for those things. And it may be for smaller things. It may be for something that we need to be more limber. But it can also be that we say, we're going to pick this firm to do this. We need to partner with this firm to do this and this firm to do this. And it puts us back in the driver's seat.
So back to my initial question then, at what point do you say, okay, this project probably requires an RFP?
Well, so we have to go through a process, although the process is more condensed, and I'm going to look to Resin to do that. I can't just go tomorrow and say, I'm going to go pick anybody on here and pick $10 million. I can't do that. I still have to come back to you and say, from the list of IDIQ, we have 5 engineers that were selected for water wastewater expertise. We want to award blank for one of these 5. I still can't just say, okay, Half Associates, go do whatever it is you're going to do. It still has to come back through the procurement process.
Yes.
And then for the smaller projects, for your 50,000, at what point, like, you don't get to do a daisy chain 50,000?
No.
So let's say you use one of the firms that's under your 50,000. The second it goes over the 50, then you have to no more working with them directly, but you have the ability to creep up to $50,000.
So I'll give you an example, and Mr. Perales' contract is a perfect example. So we needed him for a specific specialty at the wastewater treatment plant. His contract is not to exceed $49,999. He has gotten us to where we need to be on the wastewater treatment plant. Curtis still needs his consultation on the takedown of our original plant. It's consultation. He's not given Curtis, measurements. He's not doing any of that. He's telling Curtis, you need to watch out for this, this, this. Your permit needs to be in X, Y, Z. Everything that's related to consulting. I want to stay under 49.9. I want to stay under that because it's always to our benefit to continue to use that expert. But if we get to a point that it's not, then I have to stop. We have to put it out, or I've got to come to the council and say, I have an extenuating circumstance to continue to use Mr. Pedales. And the council has to say yay or nay. The council has to say, why can't you pick somebody else? Did you try somebody else? Why haven't you tried somebody else? Because I can hear you asking me all of that already. So it's not a point to avoid the procurement. It's just a point to make us more limber in the procurement process.
Okay, let me see. I think that was my main thing. It's just like there's so many moving parts, especially when it comes to like the wastewater treatment plant. I was just not understanding how we would just kind of piecemeal that together with
We would just put a scope of work together for each of the projects, look at the scope of work, and then we may send it out to these firms, like let's say it's an engineering scope. We may send it out to the 5, and then they can come back to us with what their recommendations are, or if they are able to perform in those. And some of them, like, I'm trying to think of one that we specifically talked to that has a very, I think it's the one that's working on the bridge, the old iron bridge currently, which is, I think it's Hewitt Zollers. They have a specialty in the bridge, so we may not go to another one. We know that they have recommendations for the bridge. So if we have a scope of work built around the bridge, we may go straight to them and ask them to look at the scope of work. Does it fit their needs and does it fit our needs? And then bring it back to you guys.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. I have one question that I want to ask. Are we going to seek some commonality in contract format?
Yes.
That would please me to no end, and I'm not the one that's going to be reading those. So
yeah, we're working on a template with legal right now, and that template will be what we do to negotiate with based on that.
Aren't you glad I asked that question?
Yeah,
well, we're working on a template for that, and for our RFQs, like we're working on a template for all of those.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Outstanding.
So, Councilmember Lee, to your question also, we're going to come back to you with an IDIQ for streets also.
Yes, I'm bringing
because
that
I
up.
need to be able to, we need to be able to move pretty quickly. And if we've pre-selected the firms, if we've done all our due diligence, checked all the references, we've done it, then it should be an easier process to get to you because we've done some of the background work.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett, a second from Councilmember Meyer. No further discussion or questions indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Move on to item 9I. Consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-75, City of Bastrop, Texas, directing staff to prepare a service plan providing extension for full municipal services to R-R30094, being 10.559 acres of land out of the Nancy Blakey survey abstract number A98, located north of State Highway 71 West and west of FM 969, and approximately 1,893 feet of FM 969 right-of-way located north of State Highway 71 West and south of Capps Lane, and approximately 10,145 feet of State Highway 304 right-of-way located south of State Highway 71 West and north of Lower Red Rock Road / Trigg Road, and approximately 1,942 feet of FM 20 right-of-way located south of State Highway 71 West and north of Shiloh Road, to be annexed as attached in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. Mr. Rosales.
Mayor, Council, so I'm going to give a quick overview of why we're here, and then I'll talk about the individual properties first, or second. So the reason why we're here, why we're asking, we have this on the agenda, is in order to proceed with annexation, the local government code requires us to complete a municipal service plan for each of these properties before annexation. And that has to be directed by council to staff to perform those, put those together, and then bring those back through the annexation process for approval by you guys. Those MSPs, as we'll call them, they cover the areas, the police protection, fire protection, EMS services, those kinds of things as laid out. And so we have to have your approval to bring those back to you. So that's why we're here. Second reason is I want to talk about the properties that we're going to provide the MSPs for. Property right-of-way number 1 is along FM, if this will work, FM 304 from the current city limits all the way to what is Trigg Road. It's approximately 10,145 feet of 130-foot right-of-way along FM 304. Next one is FM 20 from the current city limits. It is 1,942 feet of right-of-way going down towards, and I don't know if there's an actual road name there, but it would be down towards the current property there as outlined in the blue here. Next one is FM 969 from the current city limits going north to just on the other side of the Colonies property, as outlined here in the blue. And final one is a voluntary annexation that we've been requested from the landowner. And so we would have to provide an MSP for them and then bring back the voluntary annexation at a later time. Any questions?
Any questions for Assistant City Manager? Will the municipal service plans, will they have a fiscal note attached to them to
Yes.
make a determination how much it's going to cost for us to provide these expanded services?
Yes, it's required. And if we don't have the service, we must have a plan to you on when we plan to expand the service.
Correct.
And do we anticipate that the extra tax revenue that might be generated off this will be able to cover that cost?
Correct.
Fingers crossed and everything?
Well, so for Ironwood specifically, Ironwood is will be an in-city MUD. They will be responsible for their own costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that one for sure. The others at 969 specifically, we fully intend, because MUDs they're just popping up. I can't, allegedly the city has to give consent, but you know how that goes.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just there. The development is driving it. And then same thing for as we near the Addleton area across the street from that is we've already done an annexation of the upper portion of that property, and its development is imminent. So it is really incumbent upon us to get ahead of that.
Good. I love it. I love it. Any further questions? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett, a second from Councilmember Meyer. No further discussion or questions indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Foster.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Thank you, council. We'll move on to item 9J. Consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-77 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, appointing Councilmember Kerry Foster as the city liaison to the Bastrop County Public Health Department Task Force as authorized by Section 301 of the city's charter establishing an effective date. I submitted this and pursuant to Resolution 2024-49, Councilmember Foster is my co-submitter on this. This is not really a liaison position. This is actually a member and a voting member of that task force. And so I would like for your motion to indicate that she is a member and not a liaison of that. She is replacing me because y'all have removed me from that, despite the fact that I have a lot that I could add to that. I will comply, certainly comply with what y'all voted on, and I ask for y'all's endorsement of this appointment.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lee.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Plunkett. Any further discussion?
Yes, I would just like to make a statement to Carrie, because I know Crystal is the other person that the city has appointed. So with you and Crystal representing us, we're very proud. So thank you.
I think she'll do a great job. Any further discussion or question? Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Mayor?
Nope. I'm sorry?
No, and I
Mayor
turned it
Pro
on
Tem
at the
Kirkland.
last possible second. Did you want the language to be modified with an amendment?
I would prefer for the motion to be, to reflect her as a member and not as a liaison.
Okay, so would y'all accept that as a?
I would.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Thank you, council. We are at the end of page 4, moving to page 5. Executive session, we've taken care of 40% of our executive session items. Item 10C, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.087. The advice of legal counsel regarding the contribution of hotel occupancy tax funds to fund renovations and updates to the Bastrop Opera House. 10D, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.087 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding potential economic development incentives related to the Bastrop Food Pantry. And item 10E, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.087 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding a proposed 380 agreement or proposed amendments to a development agreement related to the Val Verde development. It is 10:26. Council is in executive session. City Council is back in an open session. On item 10C, I believe that we have a motion.
Yeah, I move to direct staff and the attorney to negotiate an agreement to consider contribution of hotel occupancy tax to fund the historical restoration and renovations to the Bastrop Opera House. Mutually agreeable by all parties.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Plunkett, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. Any discussion, any questions? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Fossler.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes. We'll move on to item 10D. I believe we have a motion here.
I make a motion to direct staff to come back with an outline of an economic development incentive for the Bastrop Food Pantry.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lee.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Fossler. Seeing no discussion indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Thank you, council. On item 10E, I believe that we have a motion.
Yes. I make a motion to approve a letter of intent with C.C. Carlton construction of off-site wastewater line for the Val Verde development.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Fossler, a second by Councilmember Plunkett. Seeing no further discussion indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Thank you, council. We will move to item 12.
Motion to adjourn.
I have
Second.
a motion to adjourn. I have a second. We are adjourned.